Just make sure
We're live.
We're live. Bob Lesnefsky.
Oh, I never got the link, bro. But
I mean,
what?
Remember you said you were gonna give me that link, dude?
Oh, hold on. Let me get it. You guys talk. I'll send it to you.
To my phone?
Yeah, sure.
I didn't even know you had my number.
I don't.
How's he gonna do it?
Are you gonna airdrop it? The Gen Z over here, bro.
You talk about an overview of the episode for anyone who's about to click away.
You text it to me. I'll text it to Lesnefsky. Lesnefsky. Has anyone ever called you Lesnefsky?
Dude, you did really good. I couldn't believe you got it right. Most of my best friends still say Lesnefsky.
Lesnefsky. I've been calling Matt Bruninger Matt Bruinger.
That's what I call him.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna change. He never corrects anyone, so that's on him, dude.
I went out to double date with him and his bride last night to Sushi Bomb.
Oh yeah.
And on the way back, we just got into these like 90s songs from our high school years, and we were cranking them.
Dude, he's trying to start, and when I say trying, I don't know if he's really trying, but he swears it's true. He's trying to start an a cappella group on campus that sings like R&B songs.
Does he mean that?
Like 90s. He says he does, dude. Like,
he's hard to take seriously sometimes because he's so funny and
I know the way he dresses and stuff.
Yeah,
his big hips. You know, yeah, dude. Yes.
I sent you the link, Matt.
the big hips.
He does have big hips. Have you ever noticed that? Your viewers can't see because he's got the table in the way of his hips, but he's got big hips.
All right. I'm texting you your wife's. I'm texting you the link for your wife. Ready, set, you got it? Make sure you don't edit any of this out. I mean that. This is the best.
I mean,
or if it's not
it
the
is
best,
live.
it is something. It is live. I mean, when we re-upload it later on.
Nor will he ever watch it, dude. He's
who? Lesnefsky? I mean,
Matt.
What's his name?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Matt Bruinger's hips.
We're gonna clip this out, not to post it to the YouTube channel.
Oh.
We have no plan to post the clip to the
He's
YouTube
the new
channel.
Cameron Bertuzzi, man. After the voice I did for Cameron, I'm surprised he still became Catholic after I
don't think he ever heard it.
Made fun of that voice. Well, see, that's what I'm saying. The hotshots never watch the stuff, dude.
They're too big, too cool,
dude.
too important.
Too busy doing other stuff.
Oh, you let me know when you've sent the link to your wife.
I sent it to her.
So she just said she wanted to look at that thumbnail.
She's gonna be. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Dude.
To those who are watching at home, this went live to my local supporters, and then it went live.
Oh, dude, I hate you.
To the riffraff.
I'd like to pay one of those like scrubbers that like takes like an image or comment of you off the internet to take that picture down, dude. I hate that.
Why?
Picture. It's just so. I look like a vampire. I have like that weird freaking beard that's like trimmed up. The guy at Franciscan who took that picture says he didn't put like an edit on my eyes, but they're like weird glowing.
Okay. How has your style changed over the years, Bob? I know you used to have bleached hair and a shell necklace like all of us.
Shell necklace.
What generation are we? I forget. I always forget.
Dude, we're Gen X, bro.
Gen X. Okay.
I know I am, bro.
Yeah.
You might be a baby boomer.
No, I'd be Gen X. Yeah.
You might be the greatest generation. My style, dude. You know what, man? It's like a full circle because when I was going into not a full circle, but it's close. It's an oval at least. When I was going into college, man, I was preppy, real preppy.
Were you?
Yeah. And look at me now, man. I got the cardigan. It's back, bro.
Interesting.
I love preppy. Yeah, I love sweaters, V-neck sweaters with like the lines.
Did you come from a kind of preppy family?
Yeah. Well, I just came from like the suburbs of Philadelphia. That's why whenever people see like I have tattoos, they're like, I can't wait to hear your story. It's like, hey, it was just from a preppy, dysfunctional family,
middle
suburban. Yeah. But anyway, so I was really preppy. And then when I got into inner city ministry, I think for a while I embraced like the caricature of what I thought like urban streetwear was.
Exactly what that was.
Oh yeah, it's pretty simple to describe. Like it was a lot of tracksuits. Like I really like Beastie Boys, like I loved them, even though that wasn't the sound of the times in the early 2000s when I started doing inner city ministry. But I that was the caricature I knew growing up. So it was like, man, tracksuits,
the kids
hats,
will dig it.
Like cut off shirts, not like half shirts, but here,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, a lot of trucker hats. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really cool. I had one tattoo at the time, and I thought that was enough to.
What was the first tattoo you got?
It was my grandfather's name.
Oh.
Yeah. And I didn't get my first tattoo. I was 25.
Wow.
Yeah, people always like, were you 13 when you got your first? And no.
And why did you get that? Yeah, we were close with your granddad.
Or
does he just have a really good name?
No. His name is Clevis, and
That's a good name.
Yeah. C.S. Lewis is my grandfather, actually.
It's amazing.
Clevis, or what's C.S. Lewis' name?
Clive Staples.
Clives. That's it. That was my grandfather's name, Clives. His name is Andy, so it's not. So it doesn't say Andy. It says AGK, which I hope I didn't tell this story last time on your podcast because I feel like it was a bunch of tattoo clickbait.
This isn't about them. This is about us.
Okay, this is about me and you.
And if I remember, I'll let you know.
Okay, all right. Because this is good, dude. This is meaty, bro. This will be a good clip. All right, boys. All right. So anyway, he was in World War II. Okay. Not only was he in World War II, he stormed Normandy, dude. On D-Day, he was on the the bloodiest beach, Utah beach. And I read about his ship, the battalion that went out first. It was a 93.1% death rate. So the survival rate was under 7% of people, but somehow he survived D-Day, dude. And so anyway, as a kid. He got some things, like he got a Bronze Star, a Purple Heart, he had some things, whatever. But he never talked about the war, until it was a week before he died, a month before he died, something like that. He finally, shared with us, and he gave me right before he died. I wish I brought it, man. I knew you were going to ask this question. Anyway, he gave me a bayonet that he took off a Nazi on the Normandy beach, dude.
Give it to me.
Bro, I already gave you the Thomas Aquinas. I gave you my furniture from my living room.
I will give you that back. You give me the bayonet. We'll put it up here.
Dude. So anyway, he stormed Normandy, and he had, as a kid, he has this American Eagle tattoo on his arm that was just, you couldn't tell what it was. It was a blob. Okay. I remember as a kid, I have this memory of sitting around this circle table in his kitchen, and he would always sit in the same spot, read the paper, and just touching his arm. His skin was thin and nasty, but just touching his arm and being tell me about this. And he's like, I was drunk, I was in the war. He didn't want to talk about it, man, but he was just a good man, dude. He was just a good, holy man, and I was fascinated. And we'd always say as kids, one day we're gonna get your name tattooed, and he'd be like, no, don't get it. But we got it, all three of us, before he died. So we were able to show him, and we have this picture we're
That's
showing
amazing.
Our tattoo, and he's got his eagle, and he's into.
What did he think of that?
He tried to pretend you shouldn't have got it, but he thought it was awesome, dude. Yeah, you could tell he loved it. And
so that must have been amazing to have. Were you aware that he hadn't shared much about the war when he began speaking about it? What was it like?
Because
when he
my grandma came in, and she's like, he's never told me any, she didn't even know he had that bayonet. He brought it down from somewhere upstairs. He gave my other brother a Luger gun, and she was like, he's never shared any stories about it. He's never wanted to talk about it. Those guys just came back, he worked in a factory, making I don't know, bolts or something in Scranton. And he just came back, worked in the factory, didn't complain about it. And it's just it's just so weird how different culture is now. And I'm not saying that is the way to do it. Just stuff all your wounds or horrible memories into a box and never talk about it till a week before you die. But there's something honorable about this. Just I just did what I had to do. I just
carry your cross,
right.
Tell everybody about it.
Today it's just if we have an allergy to mustard, we get a sticker for the back of our car. There's a ribbon, an allergy to mustard ribbon. It's yellow.
There's not really.
No, it's not. But I was in line the other day behind, I think I'm probably going to be the most offensive guest. But
I doubt that.
You had Matt Bruninger on here. So
we had Matt Bruninger.
Those hips.
He was making fun of people with small hips.
He probably was, man.
And that was offensive.
He probably was, dude.
Your name came up.
It probably did, dude. That's what happens when you're insecure. You make fun of the alpha. You take them out, bro. These two are training at jiu-jitsu to get me one day. They're gonna finally take me down. No.
Do you want to put these sunglasses on and do your alpha impression?
Bro, I don't need the shades, bro. People have eyes; they can see.
I might need them.
All right, so I was behind this person in the school drop-off line the other day, and they had this huge bumper sticker. I mean, they must have had it made, unless it's a highly mass-produced bumper sticker, but it said, "I love someone with life-threatening food allergies." It's just like, I was like, come on, dude. I mean, I'm not saying like if you have life-threatening food allergies, it's not a big deal, but it's just like the difference between that and like someone who stormed Normandy and went back to the factory. It's like, this is, I don't know, man. It's
the worst sticker for me is the.
It was probably your car, bro.
Well, I didn't want to say it, but the poor, since you called me out so openly, the paw print that says "Who saved who."
Oh, dude.
I want to wind down their window or have them wind it down and say, "No one, unless they drag you out of a burning building,
burn in hell."
Also, why would you get a mutt? When you could get like an actual real dog that's not been abused.
Well,
do you know what I'm saying?
A mutt, dude? How do you know it was a mutt?
Well, who saved who? I think the implication is we rescued this dog from a shelter. But if it's in a shelter, like they could just kill those ones and you could get a new one, you know what I mean, that hasn't had any weird baggage.
You're right, man.
And I don't know if people realize that.
Bro, this is going to be the next big viral thing. You making fun of the dogs, dude.
There are no funny.
Let me guess, the dogs aren't funny either.
The female dogs, when put in a stand-up environment, I've never found one to be funny.
Well, I'm glad you were.
It would be weird if I made you
this
blush.
time.
That would be weird if I could get to. I don't think that's
there's
at
not
all
much.
possible.
There's not much blushable area. It'd be like, well, I guess the head, the top of the head.
It just starts.
There's. I feel like it's possible. I've felt myself blush in my life, but it's like when I accidentally embarrass myself.
Can you think of the most embarrassing moment in your life?
There is something. What was it that I was like telling all these people? Like, I've never been so embarrassed. Like it was.
Could you say that into the microphone so people can hear you?
Yeah, I was
Thanks,
trying to
Bob.
think of when the last time there was something I was like, I've never been so embarrassed. Well, I could tell you one really horrible. This is a horrible story, dude, but it's really funny, dude.
Yeah, drag it out.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, dude. This is this is good. This is clippable, boys. Get your fingers on the mice, on the mouses. All right. So I like self-admittedly, I got an anger problem, I guess I need to pay someone like Matt Bruinger to, give me some healing. But like, anyway, and I've worked through it. I'm like, it's come way down from like my like go-to anger spot is road rage. That's like where I tend to be the most, but I've kind of come away from that. But the surprising space that I didn't really think about was sports, because I'm not an athlete. I'm not a sports fan. When people are like talking sports and like, I just excuse myself because I don't know what they're talking about. And it's not like I feel embarrassed about that. I just don't care, man. I don't care about it. My buddy Bob Rice the other day took me to a Tampa Buccaneers game, and he's like, I know you don't know anything about sports. I'm going to tell you. He's like, here's one thing. Tom Brady's the quarterback. And I was like, haha, dude, I know Tom Brady plays for the Patriots. And he's like, I'm not kidding. He's really the Buccaneers. So that shows you how little I know about sports. Okay. So with that context, I've never been able to cut my teeth. I've never been able to practice patience or temperance, prudence, like any of those things, like in the arena of sports. And so none of my kids have been good at sports either, because me and Kate are bad at sports. We're not encouraging them, not giving them tips. I don't even know anything about sports. So I had one kid, this Toby, who is now a Franciscan, but when he was in high school, he was really into basketball, and he got really into it, and he was really bad at it at first. And, I was like, just quit, just like,
so much easier.
Yeah, just trying to really, but he didn't want to quit. And he really kept at it, and he went to like some clinics, and he just would grind and get better. And then when he was like a junior and senior in high school, especially when he was a senior, he was really good. He like started for the high school local, you know, for his high school basketball team. And so I would go to every game, dude. And one of the things that like I found with him, he was like just this rage that I would get so into the game, like one of those parents who would always like end up getting into it with another parent, like from the other team. And probably because I'm contrarian, but like I would sit on the opposing
No, you wouldn't.
bench. Yes. Oh, not bench.
Yeah,
be
yeah.
nice, but the opposing bleacher.
On your own or with Kate or?
No, Kate didn't come. But the story I'm going to tell you, she came. Okay, so I would always end up like doing this. Like I found like if you hit both your hands against the bleachers, it was so loud. So whenever our people would make a point, whenever I disagree with the ref, I just boom, 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 just over and over again. And their fans hated, you know. But I found like I could really, like it was like one of those things where you feel like I'm really making an impact. Like and I do think to this day, like I was impacting the game, you know, because you think like it's pissing people off, it's encouraging to our team, it's like it's definitely moving the needle. And so I would do this thing, and sure enough, some player from the team or parent would be like, "Will you shut up?" You know, like, and then you know I would do it louder, or I would say something back. But anyway, this one time, my wife was with me, and I was boom, 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 and this guy, you know, kept looking at me, and then he would yell something real obnoxious the next play or whatever. And she had to leave at halftime, and she was like, "Do not get in a fight with that guy, with that parent."
Who said that?
My wife.
Okay.
I have to leave. She's like, "Do not get in a fight with this parent right here." And I was like, I won't, all right, just leave. You know, like, come on, Mom, just leave. And so she left. And so the next quarter, I'm doing the boom, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden he starts boom, boom, boom. He'll look at me, you know, and then I'm like a little ashamed of this, but it's just to give I'm trying to be vulnerable, all right, and share authentically. But he was like boom, 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 and then he was like, "You know what? You're an a-hole," you know. And I was like boom, boom, and I just kept doing it, staring at him, dude. I was in the zone, bro. I was like, it was a close game that we ended up winning. Okay, but by like 1 point
because of you, probably.
Probably because of me. All right, but like. Anyway, so he says, finally, he's like, "Hey, buddy, F you," you know, and I wish that I was just like, but I was like, "F you," you know, like, yes, dude, I was fired up, dude.
In front of families and children and.
Oh, dude, I mean, I just was in another zone,
I'm not trying
bro.
to heap shame on you, but
bro.
just
I was on. At least I didn't say women aren't funny, bro. But like, it's fine. We won't get into that. We won't get into it, bro. We won't get into it. But so F you,
that would have been such a weird retort. F you, women aren't funny.
It would probably have been more offensive. I tell you that. From the comments I read, it seems more offensive.
Pause. Dramatic effect.
Yeah, cut that clip out.
No,
all right. Anyway, so dude, but you know, okay, so this shows you how, like on a natural level, like I feel like I have such little natural virtue. And here's a guy, I've known nothing about this guy, but given the fact that he was quick to say F you, some other things he said, like I'm thinking like he's probably not Christian. He's probably thinking the same thing about me.
Sure.
Okay, but so this is what happens. He turns to me after boom, but the next time I'm banging thing, and he's like, "Hey, buddy," he's like, "What if we just have a truce, okay?" He's like, he's like, "I'll stop, you stop," and I was like,
weakness.
Dude, it just right away, like it brought me, it was like cold water on the face, and I was like, okay, yeah, okay. And so I didn't say anything the rest of the game. Okay, so there's a whole nother quarter going by, and just I'm like thinking like, man, like what a jerk, dude. This guy has to call me on, you know. And
So you think he's the jerk?
No, me.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying about myself.
Yeah.
Like, what a jerk this guy has to call me on.
I mean, that is pretty impressive that he did that.
No, it gets way worse. Okay?
Oh, good.
So he it was impressive. It was impressive. Okay, but I decided, like, it's like a couple minutes left. I'm like, dude, next time out, I'm gonna like tell him I'm sorry. You know. So I time out, and I was like, hey, dude. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm such an a-hole, dude. I was like, I definitely have an anger problem, and I was like,
wow.
I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I lose my temper so easily.
All these years of men's group where you're encouraged to be vulnerable. So you're just being vulnerable. Some guy who's probably not ready for it.
Okay, so listen what he says. He turns to me. All right, now we have both our hands on each other's shoulders. Okay, which the parents are probably thinking like they're about to, like, you know, wrestle. But he puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, dude, I just found out I have cancer this morning. And dude, I was like, oh my gosh, dude. Like, I was like,
as if he would lie about that.
no, I know. Well, dude, everyone I've told the story, they're like, he probably got you, man. He's probably just, so I got my hand on his neck. I'm like, I'm so sorry. He's like, I just have had the worst day. And I was like, I'm so sorry, man. I didn't even want to say like, I'll pray for you, because I don't want him to think like, oh, Christians are, jerks, but I like am never left with my tail between my legs. I mean, I just couldn't. So I got home, my wife's like, did you get in a fight with that guy? I was like, yes and no, but I was like, but that's not the worst part, and then went on to tell the story. It was, dude, just the worst. I mean, that's probably the most embarrassed I've ever felt in my life, dude.
I mean, I don't know why you're embarrassed, because I think if you had have reacted negatively, or if you had told him to piss off and then got into a fight and then found he had cancer, you should feel desperately ashamed.
Yeah.
But it seems like you were humble.
Yeah, I mean,
and then you apologized.
Yeah, I mean, like if you like heard all the back and forth, I mean, there was no physical altercation, okay, but it was. I
see.
It was.
But it was loud,
poorly, loud. It was angry. It was just, filled with vitriol. But like, yeah, it was rough. But it was just so, I just couldn't believe, like, dude, because you always think like someone being like, well, you don't know, maybe that guy's having a bad day. Like the road rage, for instance. I tell people like, you don't know, man. Maybe that person just lost their mom.
Maybe
or
they found out
something.
they had cancer.
And you're like, no way, dude.
Yeah.
And I just could not. And like, so there were probably 4 games left in the season. And for the next 2 games, like I didn't cheer like that, but the last 2, I was back, bro. It didn't last long.
You looked around, made sure he wasn't there. Does anybody have cancer?
Oh, dude. Just for the record, do not make a clip that says Bob thinks cancer is funny or Matt thinks cancer is funny or something.
Bruninger.
That's something these guys would do, right? The clickbait.
Well, that's what Bruninger said about
Bruninger.
Bruninger.
Oh.
Matt said that it's like, I light a little fire, and then it's Neil's job to come in with a flamethrower, and just all the clips are as offensive
dude,
as possible.
So funny, dude.
I think I can't remember the most embarrassing moment of my life. I may have pushed it way deep down inside, but the one that comes to mind was I had just got a job at a grocery store, and this is when you're 16. I don't know if it was like this in America, but I was really proud of myself for getting a job, and it's really, you have money, so you feel really great, and it was a nicer grocery store. I don't know if they do that here, but in Australia it was like, you would wear the tie and the blazer, and you'd look
to
decent.
Go to the grocery store.
No, but to work there.
Oh, to work. Okay, got it. Okay.
And so this one day, I was in charge of going back to the large refrigerator in the back and loading up the metal trolley with orange juice and Coca-Cola and Sprite so that I would then fill those front fridges up. So I'm pushing this big thing down. And there was a girl, I'm not going to say her name just in case she's watching, but she was so beautiful. And everyone in school was in love with this one girl. She was the popular girl. She was beautiful. And I'm aware that she's seeing me and she's in the checkout line. And I don't know, I certainly didn't want to look like an idiot. I don't know if you can look amazing filling up a fridge with Coke, but you could look like an idiot. I could make that happen. And I did, because I must have opened up the cartons and I was about to fill the glass orange juices into the fridge, and they all started rolling out and shattering all over the floor. Man. And I don't know, man. I think I froze, and maybe I tried to put some back in.
Did you try and push her out of the way, bro? Like from the glass? That's what you should have done. Capitalize. That's what the alpha would do, bro. Matt Bruninger and Matt Fradd wouldn't have thought of that. Dude. That's
what should I have done?
Dude, you push her out of the way, bro. You save her life, dude. Save her from the glass shards.
She was about, I don't know, 10 meters away from me, though. It wasn't like she was.
That's why you dive.
That was really embarrassing.
Dude,
because everyone is looking. Yeah.
Just kind of.
So it doesn't count.
Was it Nicole Kidman?
It was not Nicole Kidman. No.
Just in case.
I'm old, but I'm not that old.
Okay. Oh. You didn't say like how old she was.
Well, I did say she was in our high school, and then everyone was. Yeah, it wasn't Nicole Kidman.
Okay.
Better.
I was trying to think
more
of like
beautiful
who
than
would have
Nicole
been
Kidman.
who would been listening to this podcast from Australia.
Yeah, I'll just say the name just in case he's watching. Her name was Lisa Brock. She was so beautiful and friendly and kind, and when that happened, I was so ashamed. I was just so, and because the entire store is looking at you, and I'm just standing there as things are exploding. That was embarrassing.
Dude, I bet you she was like, I bet you she felt like scared and would have like appreciated the effort that you could have put into her. Yeah.
Dive.
Yeah.
Sure.
And anyway,
And if she's in safety, just walk over, give her a hug. It's gonna be
Yeah, I should have done
just
that.
be like, you right? Take a look. You got any glass on you?
Yeah.
Something like that. You know?
Okay.
What'd you do? Start licking up the orange juice?
I remember I was so embarrassed. I said to my boss, "I'm so sorry. Like, I'll pay for all of these." And like, it's really okay. But you know when you get your job
Yes,
and
dude.
you just
Yeah, dude. That's rough, bro. I thought you were gonna say the shiznit story, but
So yeah, well, that story was I was on stage. You and I were speaking at a Franciscan Steubenville conference somewhere, and I said the word shiznits, and I just thought it was a fun word to say. I didn't
it's
know
not
what
with an S. You didn't say shiznits.
is it not?
No,
Shiznit.
you said something like that. I'm the shiznit. Or
I would not have said I'm the shiznit.
Yes.
I said the
It was
shiznits.
something-
I said it was the shiznits, and I didn't know what it meant. And you said only you could get away with that. You said that once we got off stage, and I said, "What do you mean?" And you went, "That means shit." Is that true?
Yeah,
See,
bro.
I don't know these things. So
Well, you just you said like I'm the shiznit or that's the shiznit or I don't give a shiznit. I mean, you can get from the context what that meant. But you put like it is in there, dude, that's definitely.
it was me just trying to relate to the kids.
Yeah, well, it was good, dude. I remember thinking like that's hot, but like I just couldn't pull that off. In fact, I got reprimanded from I don't want to say who it was at the conference office, Mark Joseph, but for making a fart joke one time when I was hosting, and I remember thinking like freaking Matt Fradd says the F word.
I do not say that.
You definitely could say any curse word in like a men's session. I'm not saying like a main session, but you let the verbiage fly. But you got that cute accent and you're like flipping your hair back, and they don't care, bro. But someone's like me is up there, making a fart joke.
Got my tattoos.
They're ready to
People are prejudiced.
snipe me, bro. Yeah, that's it.
The feedback from the talks that we would give, that was like the first YouTube comment section. It was like,
oh, dude,
I mean, you don't do videos on YouTube, but
dude, so bad.
Remember?
Man. Yes, dude. In fact,
I called all the boys. I'm not proud of this, but I called them pussies, and I got in big trouble for that. And I shouldn't have used that word, but it was my way of.
No,
trying to
I
do
know
you
what
wanna
you're
be a
saying, dude.
pussy all your life?
Yeah, right. I get it. Dude. You're playing the coach card, and it's like
And it worked.
There
Like,
is
they
something
love
like
it.
motivating about that, like with the guy when
But I
you're
shouldn't
being
have said
called out. Like, yeah. I normally try and like modify that word with pansy or something. They get it, but I'll give you some tips after this, man. Anyway, but yes, dude, the comments were so. I remember one year they gave you the option, like, do you want to see all the comments you got, the feedback? It was like positive and negative, and we were like, yeah. It was like a group decision. It wasn't like individual, and so this was like all the hosts like that. I'm thinking of this specific group, so Paul George, Annie, all just Steve Agrisano, just different people that host the conference And then, so I got one, it was 78 pages long. Okay. I remember. So they gave us, it was like a PDF.
Wow.
Like they must have scanned in. This was a long time ago. All right. And I'm reading through it, and like 90 something % of these comments are very positive, like over the top, undeservedly, like this man's a walking saint, you know, like, and then there would be like 3 comments that would say, and those were all I would think about. That's like how insecure you realize.
That's
like
everyone's
man,
experience,
I'm really
isn't it?
insecure.
Yeah.
And but I mean, some of them were so funny. I remember like, just things about like, why does he put his hands in his back pocket? Like, why does he wear a dark colored skinny jeans? Like, what's he trying to draw attention to? I mean, just stupid things that you're like, what? I mean, just the dumbest things. But you start thinking like, or like, man, he really seemed off this weekend. I don't know what was wrong with him. And then it's just like, what we're trying to think like, what was I doing that way? I don't know. But dude, it really made me like second guess. I actually, the year after that, I took 4 years off from doing the conferences. I was just like, why do I care so much about this, dude? It was like really like
That was the impetus for you taking time off?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was that, and like just like, I think just some personal things of me and Jesus, like thinking like that, like it made me think like, why do I care so much about this? And then like, why does Jesus love me? And what, how has being like a speaker person from the time I was in college onward, like, affected my walk with Christ, like in a negative way. It's just, it's just something that like, I feel like there were some things that needed to get worked out there, you know. But yes, I felt so embarrassed that I was like cared so much about what some random, you know, youth minister thought of my, you know, skinny jeans.
Yeah, and now many Catholics who are trying to reach people with good intentions are doing it online, and the comments are just piling up whenever you say something, and I wonder what that does to people.
Yeah, how you'd be able to
I would
testify to that, man.
Yeah. It crushed me the first time I got a ton of negative comments. Yeah. And I would much rather say...
What do you do to combat that?
Well, it only really crushed me once.
Okay.
I did a particular interview years back, and people from both sides were just deeply ashamed of me, you know, and saying things like
Well, buckle up after this interview, just so you know.
This is nothing compared to that interview, I promise. And yeah, it's the same thing where you wish you could say, I don't care, but I definitely cared. And so I gave my computer and phone away, I think, for like 4 days, just so I could get out of the thing. Because it's funny, like, it doesn't matter how big you are. Are you texting while you're talking to me?
I guess I have my notification.
Yeah,
I guess I have my notifications on, bro. I was trying to think. Yeah, I did. I just did, dude. I did. I don't know why they're on.
God, it's way worse than negative comments.
Dude. I know. Sorry.
Do you either of you know an Andy Chury?
Andy Chury, yeah, I do.
Oh, okay, cool. That explains a lot.
Did you send it to him? The link?
Yes. Yes. This is an amazing dude.
He just commented in all caps, "Bob is my husband."
Wow. I didn't want to tell you how I knew, but he is my former husband. Yeah. No, he's a great dude, Andy Chury. Yeah.
Or at least decent.
Decent dude. Yeah. Did he pay for that comment?
No.
Okay. We get to reserve the great.
Yeah, we'll let it go.
Great.
He was mad last time because he's giving me a lot of tattoos on my legs, and I didn't point out any of when I put my leg on your table.
I remember.
Yeah, he was mad that I didn't point out any of his, dude.
Well, we can do that at some point.
No, I won't need to do that, dude. But that's good. That, you know, honestly, like there's a fine line because I know we were talking about this in men's group. I don't want to like break the seal of men's group, but like I think there is something that's okay with like I am not impervious to people saying bad stuff about, you know what I mean? Because there's like, yes, on one side, it's like if you're a saint, if you're there, dude, and it's just like you have the luxury of being like in a relationship with God where you don't care about anything. You don't care what people say about you. You don't care what your kids say about you. You don't care what, you know, any of this stuff. But most of us like aren't in that space. And so, and there's the reality that like we might not being, you know, like living beyond reproach, you know, like, and so like there, I think like for me, that was like what was so hard about it is like thinking like, well, man, maybe some of this stuff I should take to heart, you know what I mean? And it's also like, I feel like I try and share with the college students, like, hey, I felt really insecure about this, or I struggle with depression, or I don't know, like there's something that's like, I feel like it's like very human and like good to be like, oh, Matt Fradd, you know, like he felt insecure about something. Like there's something about that. Like I feel like it makes you as a normal person be like, oh, well, I guess I'm not like a weakling if I felt bad that someone made a weird comment about my shoes or something. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think that's right. I don't know where the line is between sharing too much and not sharing. We could talk about that, but I've tended to find that whenever I've like experienced something that I feel alone in, if I've ever been able to articulate that with some satisfaction, everybody resonates. And it just reminds me that we're not special, that we're all.
I'm not saying, dude, you got to start sharing more like when you're feeling bad and anything like that. I'm just saying there's something I think that is like okay with. And I just shared that like this really wrecked me when I like had a kind of a crisis of, you know, being obsessed with what people think about me, you know. So like I think there's kind of two pendulums. You can, you know, you're like, I don't care what anyone thinks, I don't give a shit, you know, like that's not healthy either. Right, but like I think that there is something that's okay with like, man,
but I think like the analogy is this, right? So once I got all that blowback, I gave up my computer and phone for a few days and then didn't care. And I think what happens is it feels like, it's it's not true, but it feels like the entire world is set against you when something like that blows up. Even like at the time, I probably had like 17,000 YouTube subscribers, and maybe there was like 100 negative comments.
Not like now, bro.
Not like now, baby. See that?
That was 200,000 ago. No big deal. All right. Anyway.
Yeah, but I would say that after that, I actually haven't cared as much, and I don't know what changed. But I suppose like there's an analogy here. Like if your friends could have said to you when you got those negative comments from those few youth ministers, you know, if people had have been in the room as you gave those talks, and they may have said, yeah, like I think you could have done this or that better, but they would have said it in love, and because of your relationship, your guards would have been down, and you would have been able to hear them, heard them. But then they could have also said, no, it was actually an excellent talk. Like that's the analogy here, because like just like I don't care about YouTube comments anymore. Like I actually don't care. I put out so much content, I don't have time to scroll through it anyway. But I really do care if you call me on something, or Neil calls me on something, or Thursday says you shouldn't have done that, or Trent Horn will call me, or Jimmy Aiken, or friends will. I'm like, thank you. Like I'm really appreciative for that.
Yeah.
But you can't be adjusting yourself based on every negative comment.
Yeah. Does Chris
like
Stefanik,
what?
Does Chris Stefanik ever tell you that the negative comments people are saying?
He texts them every morning. He'll just text me negative comments and he'll say
gives you the recap.
hashtag quit, which is weird because it's just a text.
Bro, he's
I don't know
trying
why.
to bump you off, bro.
Yeah. You know, Chris. I know it's fun to pretend we're upset with friends of ours, but I would say Chris is. The more I've gotten to know him, that's what's always a beautiful surprise. When the more you get to know someone, it's not like you don't see their stuff and their baggage and their wounds and their anger and their lust and whatever else, because they're sharing it with you. What's a beautiful surprise is that when the more you get to know somebody, the more like respect you have for them.
Yeah. Chris Stefanik is one of the most like tender people, dude. Like I don't know the last time you've seen him, but I feel like every time I see him, he like puts his hand behind my like neck and says like, I love you, dude. You're doing great. You know, like he's like very encouraging.
He's a good man.
You know, I feel like all I do is like tease him. You know what I mean?
You got to
like,
say what you did at the conference at.
Oh yeah, we were at Hot Shot conference. There's this conference in Napa. It was like basically like a bunch of like well-to-do people that did well for themselves. You know, like, and some of them for just amazing reasons. And then there's people that are doing nonprofit work, and you know, so it's a really cool chance for people to come together. So whatever.
And it's a big event, right? Like they've had big speakers, like Shapiro's been there.
Yeah, just I mean, really hot shot people, and and Chris had a table. The only table out of like 500 tables in Napa, dude. This is in Napa Valley, dude. It's like, you know, what you imagine Napa looking like, dude. Just white linens and grape vineyards, you know, and you know, people serving
sunsetting.
Yeah, just
glorious.
Sunsetting all day long. It's just beautiful. And he had a reserved table, dude. That's how you know he's the creme de la creme, dude. And so whenever no one was looking, I would take a Sharpie and like, you know, deface his like, say reserved for Chris Stefanik, real life Catholic, and I would, you know, reserve for Matthew Kelly, or like, you know, change his name or whatever. But then one of his like henchmen found me doing it one time, and they're like, I'll be taking that. You know, like,
I'll be taking that.
Easy.
I mean,
tough guy.
Totally fair.
Yeah, totally fair.
100% he was in the right.
Totally fair. Yeah. But funny nonetheless, dude. I just don't think they're used to probably people defacing, you know, like other people's name tags. But I think Chris thought it was funny. You know, I don't know. He never told me he thought it was funny, but I like to think he thinks it was funny. He's never held my neck and said I love you after that, but I think he thinks it's funny.
You wonder what it would have done to these people who were so gifted and are so gifted at giving addresses if they could have seen all of those comments, you know?
On what, his name tag?
Mean, like, no.
But like the YouTube comments?
Like YouTube comments are just like random thoughts that you have. Like the worst part of yourself. It's like, why does that guy blink so much? Like, and then people think, well, I'm going to put that in, you know?
Yeah, dude,
why does that guy have wide hips? Like, I'm going to put that in. You know, it's like all of our unfiltered, awful thoughts. Just
I think those were all from me. If someone put that during Matt's show. Yeah, dude, it's the internet it's honestly, it's very similar to road rage, I think, because like the thing about road rage that was like easy for it to happen to me was I felt anonymous, you know.
Yes.
You feel like when you're in a machine, you know, you're not just like like I would never, like if I was walking in a mall, be like, F you to, you know, someone like, you know, just in the escalator next to me or something. But dude, I was just so quick. I mean, there's been times like I got out of the car, you know, like one, you know, it's
to calm down or
no,
to
I
escalate
told someone to pull
interaction.
over. Dude, yeah. Just, I mean, just really like out of my mind. But it's because like it takes like there's something. It takes a couple steps of the humanity away from it.
Yeah.
And the internet does the same thing, dude. Like this thing, like Yik Yak on at working at a college. I see like, you know, like there's these. So it's this app that like it's used by a lot of young people, but like it's an anonymous app that, like, you know, it's in any kind of form. So say you could say your staff gets on Yik Yak and they all post anonymous things about Matt. Dude, I hate the way Matt walks, you know, like, and you don't know who said it, but then, you know, you can anonymously be, I hate the Thursday's haircut, you know, like whatever. And then there's just a list of all these anonymous horrible things, and they're all anonymous. And so someone feels like free to just be like, well, but this is just an extreme of YouTube comments, you know what I mean? Because you could just make a fake, you know, I know people that have made fake accounts, and they just go on and say Matt Fradd is so dumb. And you're like, well, is that going to be gratifying for you, like for the moment, to like know that you might ruffle someone's feathers? But it's because you've taken away all these human normal things that would be part of a human interaction. And I think it's a lot like road rage. It just makes it easy to just be like, yeah. And you never feel, I mean, at least for me, like I always tell my wife, like I have the worst combination of like a quick, violent temper and a super heavy conscience, dude. I feel so bad about it later. Like here's an example. One time I was in Steubenville. I was coming down the hill, and this guy was in the middle of the street, dude. And this is something people do in Steubenville a lot. I mean, you live where I used to live, and you know they'll get out, they'll be talking, or they don't care if you're behind them. You know,
that is frustrating.
Or they'll walk real slow across the street. You know, it's just like there's just like this weird like kind of thing. And this guy was in the middle of the street, couldn't get by him, and he was talking to his buddy, he was laughing and all this kind of stuff. And finally, I got out of the car. I mean, this is just again me being vulnerable, okay? But I was just like, "Move your car." You know, and I said other words too, but and then he was like, "What'd you say?" And I was like, "Move your car." And this is again the natural like virtue of another person that I would never have had. But he came back and he's like, "Oh, you got kids?" He's like, "That's fine, we're cool." And he kept going. All right, and this is God humbling me. Sorry, I leaned back. God humbling me. I'm taking my family to a restaurant for dinner. Him and his buddies are going to the same restaurant, dude. So they pull into this restaurant, and we all sit down. And I was like, "What are the chances, dude?" They go in ahead of us. We sit down, and I was like, "I am so embarrassed. Like, what a jerk I am, dude. I just can't believe this." And so I ended up paying for his bill, him and his buddies, dude. I told the waitress, I didn't like tell him that. I wanted to like, you know,
make a big deal about it.
Yeah, but also I felt like I didn't want the gratification of him being like, "Wow."
Yeah.
You know, but I did go over to his table and I was like, "Dude, I'm so sorry, man." I was like, "I got an anger problem." And his two buddies, this is so funny. They're like, "Man, that was hilarious. You should have kicked his ass." They were telling me, I should have beat up this guy, you know. And I mean, it was like a great like moment, but that's the connection my whole life. And that, even with going back to these comments, it's like you feel like at first like, oh, this is going to make me feel awesome to belittle someone or to say this anonymously or just to scream and let this out. And in reality, it's like it doesn't help. Dude. You just feel like.
I certainly have struggled with anger, but I've never struggled with road rage. Like I even last night I was driving back from that sushi place with Matt and Brittany and Cameron, and someone was, I guess I may have cut someone off and they were beeping and very angry. I didn't care in the slightest. Like they may as well not have been beeping. Like, okay, well, you'll be fine. Just either go around me or be upset.
Yeah, so, I don't know what it is.
But I'm not. But I also struggle with anger sometimes. So, did you ever get to the bottom of where that came from?
Yeah, I think. I mean, there's probably unresolved issues. You know, like I definitely have done some counseling, and I had this great counselor in town Dr. Carl, this older guy, man. It was awesome. And he had me draw. He'd be like, you need to take notes, and I would take notes. And he had me this one day draw the anger volcano. And
you're like, all right, we're doing this.
And I drew it, and he was like, here are the things that caused the anger volcano to explode. And I was like, dude, hanging on every word. I was like, I gotta figure
drawing this anger volcano would be one.
I like have lava coming down, and I'm like listening. And I don't remember what they all were, but the only one that I realized that was for me was the thing, was like people not being, I can't remember what it is, but my wife tells me all the time, she uses it against me, bro. She'll be like, you remember what he said? Like, people, not everyone can be like you, but this was like it was like, this person's not like me, and it annoyed me so much. Like, I couldn't believe that, like, why would this person do this? Like, and there's just this it's super skewed, but what it leads me to believe is like a grave injustice has been done, and the only person that will defend me is me.
I see.
And it's so, I know that's what it is. It doesn't always stop the trigger, but I like realizing the trigger for me, like, has helped a lot. And when I came home that week after counseling, I would always like be telling my family, I'd be like, guys, like, I drew an anger volcano. All right, here's where we're at on that thing, like, and they'd all be laughing.
You would use the anger volcano to threaten your children. Like, here's what's coming.
No. Also because I wanted my kids to know, like, dude, Dad's an idiot. He's trying to work out his issues. I know there's times where I'm too angry with my kids, and there are times when my dad, like, was way too angry with me. And that's biologically, I know that's something like he's passed on. But that was a big wound in my life. So like, I think I want to be better than that. So the only way I know to be better than that is to just say, like, well, I know this is a problem, and say sorry when I messed up. And
that is the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah, it's hard.
Because my dad would blow his fuse a lot. And I think the times he apologized, I could maybe hear my mum talking him into it. Like, you need to go and say, you're sorry, Gary. But whenever he did it and he meant it, it just felt like, okay, we're great. Like, it did reconcile that thing. And maybe as a father, he would have thought, okay, I've caused a unbridgeable rift here. But the times he would come in and say, I'm sorry, like, okay, like, we're all good.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot, dude. There's something about, I mean, I guess it depends on the relationship with your dad, but to see a dad humble himself, a dad just, I think for so much of your life seems like the alpha, no matter what, dude. I remember one time, like, this is so funny, but I remember one time when my two oldest kids, Christian and Toby, like, they were little, like, basically my first three kids were all the same age. We had like kids, like, it was like 15 months apart. And so, like, I don't know, they were probably 9 and 10 years old, but I came into the room where the TV was, and they were watching World's Strongest Man. That was like something we would love to watch, and all old, like, things from like the 80s or whatever, like these guys like bending bars or like pulling a truck or, like things. And I came in and Toby was like, Dad, he's like, Christian said that these guys are stronger than you, and I just thought it was so funny that, like, he really believed that, like, maybe I was stronger than those guys, but there's just this part of you that your dad is just the baddest dude in town, no matter what, dude, what I mean? Like, it's not if you, because, like, I had tattoos or something, what I mean? Like, or if your dad is this or that, your dad could be like a 4 foot, 90-pound chemist, and there's just something like, I think, like, within you that is programmed to be like, my dad is the baddest dude in town, and to see, like, the rare times when you see a dad humble himself, I do think it's like, you're like, wow.
I think one of the difficult things about apologizing after you've corrected too harshly or you've blown up is you think that in apologizing, I'm also acknowledging that you did nothing wrong here. But, like, so you're trying to say sorry for what you did without undoing the thing they may have legitimately done that was an injustice to the family, right? Yeah, I mean, that's true in my relationship with my wife.
Yeah,
like, we're both at fault.
Yeah.
and then I'll lose it. And then it becomes all about how I lost it instead of like we could have actually just resolved this like normal people.
Totally. The best advice I ever get marriage-wise I ever got was from my stepdad. Like, and he said it was cool. Like he took me out the morning of my wedding and we were just in the car and he's like, I wanted to give you some advice. And he's like, he had been married twice before that. One wife died, you know, like he had been through some difficult things. And he was like, best advice I can give you is it doesn't matter who's right.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a party, you know, I just celebrated my 23-year wedding anniversary on Saturday. And, you know, there's a part of you that you're like, no, it does matter.
It really,
you know,
really
like,
does.
In this situation, like we've been down this road so many times, I'm right. You know, like why in the hell am I going to say like, well, sorry, you know, like I want to be like, I got to get this right so you don't do this again. And you know, and it's just like, there's probably part of that that's true with every interaction, but with our kids even, like, it's just like, it doesn't matter. There's like something there, like it's more important that they get the tenderness or the humility than... They're not going to remember who was right. They're just going to remember there was a moment that dad was tender and humble. And, you know, like in the same way is with your spouse, you know, like you don't remember what fights are about. But
yeah, that's true.
You know,
I've been thinking of this lately. I wonder what you think, that we as parents, I think I said this to you the other day, but we seek to, we don't want our children to have the same problems we had. And that becomes the litmus test of whether I'm doing a good job as a parent or not.
Totally.
Can you think of something that maybe your parents did or didn't do that you were like, that's just not going to happen here? But then that kind of blinds you to all the other things.
Totally. You know, so I had this like, and I know you can relate to this because we've talked about it before, but I went to this conference once with this generational expert. I wish I could remember her name because she was really phenomenal. But like, basically the whole thing was her talking about going through the generations, like what are the hallmarks, what are like the things that this generation like is known for, what did they get right, what did they get wrong. But the biggest takeaway I took from it was every generation gets some things wrong, and most of the time it's pretty exaggerated what they get wrong, and then what happens is the next generation, the pendulum swings back, and like the good thing is that's hopeful, you know what I mean? Because you think now, for instance, I feel like this is the age like where I could think of my parents being like, your generation's the worst. Like, do you know what you're doing? Like we never had this problem. We never did. And now like at 45, you're like, that I could think of, I feel the same way. You know, you start to think like man, I feel so down about this and this and this and culture. And, you know, but the nice thing is like what she says, and this is just not on a religious level. This is on just like cultural examination, is that generations tend to swing the pendulum back. So, you know, like the example she gave was like, you know, we had this puritanistic time in the 40s and 50s, which I think a lot of times we tend to
idolize.
Yeah. And like, oh, this is the best, dude. We just did everything perfect. And we said everything in Latin, and oatmeal and jean skirts to the floor were
racism.
Normal. It was all good. And and now it's like, you know, everything all right over there, boys? Sorry, look, there was a fire over to the right of me. And now, you know, like, or the next thing that happened after that was like the sexual revolution. It was like the pendulum swung so far the other way, which if like, I went to the Theology of the Body Institute with Christopher West, and like he makes this point that during that time, is messed up as some of that was, and is it opened the gates for some of this time. Like he was also saying during this time, like JP2 was formulating, like not because of the sexual revolution, but in response, I think, to some of the things we are getting wrong. You know, this theology of the body, you know, this understanding that sexuality isn't bad, that the body isn't bad. And so like there's this kind of natural, so for us, for instance, for Generation X, you know, you think of all the music and the TV show or the movies when we were kids. It's like Will Smith, parents just don't understand. Ferris Bueller's like the theme was always like our parents don't get us.
Yeah,
you know,
like heavy metal is an example of that.
Right.
Like my son, I even tried to play some heavy metal to my son, and he's like, "Why? They just sound like they're angry." I'm like, "Of course they're angry.
Yeah, we were
the world
angry.
is hard.
Yeah, like our parents didn't care about us. You know, and even that was like, in response to their generation. But so for us, we always rail now against like, I can't believe that there's these helicopter parents, these snowplow parents, that they just hover over every move, and they go to their kids' sporting practices to watch, and they go to this and that, and they call a teacher whenever their kid felt their feelings were hurt, or everyone gets a trophy. All these like hover, like that's a response to what we grew up as, thinking our parents don't understand us. They don't care. They only care about work. Or they just abandon us to the TV, and that we're just latchkey kids.
Yeah.
Like that was our generation, you know? And so our response, like, again, could be like incorrect, but that swung the other way is just, we're going to take care of every issue our kids have, and we're going to be at everything our kids ever had.
So I wonder what the next generation, how our kids will parent.
Yeah, I know.
Been
but there's some hope, because on some naturalistic level, there's some self-correction. There's overcorrection, you know what I mean? But like, I don't know. So I don't even remember how we got on this topic. But like, to me, I know what you said.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever had that experience? So for me, I feel like as parents, you know, like, when you start dealing with, you know, internet, pornography, phones, you know, all these different addictions, how are we going to raise our kids? How are we going to avoid that? And in my mind, I kept thinking, dude, if I could raise my kids like it's 1992, if I could, and honestly, this goes beyond pop culture or, you know, technology or whatever. I just thought, even with their spirituality, like if I can give them the exact experience I had, if I can send them to, you know, some kind of Christian camp when they were kids, if I can send them to a Steubenville conference when they're this age, if they could be a part of a youth group. They'll have an
experience in adoration.
Exactly. Yeah. The same thing I had. And the reality is it's just, it's not that, you know? And so even with the cultural part of it, like what was really frustrating to me is I thought if I could raise them like it's 1992, they will avoid all the pitfalls that these other idiot parents are doing by giving their kids a phone in 5th grade, or they're 4 years old or whatever, you know? And so especially my first 3 kids, it was really hard. I wouldn't even let them hold a phone, dude, until they were 16, you know? And it didn't really help, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not saying like it's to the same extent, you know, we had open conversations about sin, about the, you know, there's different pitfalls, all this kind of stuff, but like, did it sidestep culture? No.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think and this is what I got from that generational expert, was it's really hard to sidestep a tidal wave.
That's
you know,
right.
cultural
You've said that to me before. Culture is a tidal wave.
It's like a tidal wave. And so you're like, oh, well, just step over here. And it's just like, and the prime example of this to me, I thought about it in my own life, is like, there's certain songs, whether it's like a blasphemous, horrible song, or even just a really stupid, corny song that I would never listen to. How do I know all the words of this song? It's just because when I'm in a department store, when I'm in an elevator, when I'm walking, these songs are playing, and you just, they permeate, you know, so it's like culture is very permeable. And I just think it's really hard to just be like, and we're going to sidestep all that, unless you're Amish, you know, or live underground. It's really hard to totally do it. So I feel like a time that I've failed, and I don't know if it's any fault of my own. It's just like, I don't know. I didn't know what to do. And what we did, I feel like on some, I hope there's a time where my kids are like, oh, thanks for doing this, or thanks for making these rules, you know, but now, even with my kids that are still home, like they complain about the rules the same way the older kids did. I try and modify some stuff when I realize, you know, I was wrong, but it's really difficult to, you know, fight against a tidal wave.
No, that's excellent. It's right. It's and I don't know if a young parent can hear that. Because I wouldn't have been able to hear that.
Because you feel like there's no hope. You're like, nothing you do is going to matter. That's not what I'm saying.
It's not just that, but I think that when you're a parent of little children, you really have full control over their lives.
Totally.
And so when you have full control over your children's lives, and someone says, look, obviously rules are good, obviously boundaries are good, I'm not denying any of that, but it's going to get a lot more complex than you think it is. It's hard to hear it until you've had to live through it.
Totally. I mean, I remember when we were on our engaged encounter, this is something we had to do in the diocese here. There was a time where they're, this couple gets up, they're, 80 years old, and they're like, there were tough times in our marriage, and you'll go through it, and you'll get through because the Lord is good or whatever. And then you go and you journal about it, and we're like, oh, I mean, it might be true for them, but like we're gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
Because like we just want to make out all the time. Like there's like this part of you that like thinks
we're
like not us.
them. Yeah.
Not us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
different.
yeah.
We're the exception.
And you realize like, dude, it's just life is messy. Like, so I just got done this past semester taking a class, a grad class, which I'll never do again. But it was on RCIA, and Scott Solom, like he said in this thing, like the the 1 and 2 things about conversion, and he's talking about RCIA, but really it's good about any conversion is like it's slow and in stages, and I think in stages could be more in the vernacular, just messy. It's slow and it's messy. And it's just like, this is true. It doesn't matter if you do marriage right. It doesn't matter if you do parenting right. It's messy and it's hard. And there's parts where you have to make corrections, and there's parts where you have to admit defeat. And, you don't, I think as a young person, you just want to be like, well, if we just, bust our ass and pray a ton, and burn all technology, we'll be just fine. It's just not that simple.
I think what makes it difficult too is, I think as a young married couple, I'll use myself as an example. If you had have said all of these things, I would have went, absolutely. That's what makes it difficult. It's when you think you know something.
Right.
And then you think, well, because I know that, then everything will be fine.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't know it, and it won't be fine.
Yeah. It is really hard. But I think like for me, like one of the things I think of like that give hope, and I don't know, like for the married couples that like we're close with that are younger than us, we got a great couple that every Friday we get together, Gabe and Sarah, and like nice. We just have time talking together about our marriages, talking about like it's really helpful. Like sometimes to them to be like, we just had the worst fight in your driveway, like. But there's something like that's really cool. I think about like this, hope that you find from like. So for me, like I could think of some older men, some marriages of people in my life. That guy last night, I was the farmer who lives next door to me. Dude, I was over there welding something in his garage, like, and I was like, yeah, Art, 23 years this Saturday. We just celebrated our 23rd anniversary, and he's like, 23 years? He's like, that's nothing. And I was like, how many years for you? He's like, 58. And you just think like, yeah, dude, but it's like. There's hope that I think comes from like you see these people have like lived through tough times, and they've had tough times in their marriage. They've had hard things with their children. Yeah. That to me, like I feel like in the beginning of my marriage, I feel like that was really fearful to admit like we'd ever have a hard time, we'd ever have a struggle with a kid, we'd ever get something wrong. But now I feel like it's really hopeful as you see like, no, they weathered the storm, dude. Yeah. Like it's possible to weather the storm. It's possible to have a good, and I'll tell you, like I have like college kids, I work at Franciscan, and I have college kids tell me all the time, they're like, I kind of never wanted to get married. And then this isn't like bragging about my marriage. I have a great marriage, but like I have kids that are like, I never saw a marriage that like seemed real and seemed like something that like gave me hope. In fact, I never wanted to get married because like I had a weird like experience with my parents who maybe are still together, but like kind of hate each other or kind of like, whatever. But then they're like, but seeing you guys, like, I know that not everything's perfect, but like you guys really treasure each other as friends. You really, push for holiness above everything else. And like, it looks really attractive, like the way your marriage is, and like, so there's something about that I feel like I have those couples in my life, and that gives me a ton of hope,
I also think one thing that's changed for me is when my kids were really little, I probably would have said something like, I don't know who my kids are going to marry. Like I'm terrified. I'm not terrified. There are so many good men that I encounter here at Franciscan and elsewhere who, just like the rest of us, have their own sins and addictions maybe and wounds and stuff, but I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, talk to me in 3 years when my kids get older, but I can't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
But.
No, man. That is a frightening thing. I think like is who's gonna who's going to be the person that's responsible for my kids?
So there are legitimate causes for fear, but there are also illegitimate causes for fear, and trying to distinguish between those two. Like for me, and I've shared this in a previous episode, but the litmus test for me is like whether my kids see porn or not, because that was the biggest wound in my life. And so it's like, that will not happen to my kids. And that blinded me to like being a dad in other areas and being tender in other areas. It's like, no, if all I do is get them to say 16 before they see porn, that's all that matters. Nothing else matters. And I wouldn't have framed it like that, but I can, and obviously you don't want your kids seeing porn. That's,
Sure.
You got to have these follow-ups because people are like, are you saying it's okay? No.
Yeah, no. Yeah, but it also gives you...
And your wife said something to me when we were sitting around at your property.
It's funny. She was talking about this last night.
Was she?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm about to say?
Yeah. She. I mean, and you might be able to.
She looked at me and she said that she realized one day, like her fear was that you or the kids would look at porn or something like that, and she said, I realized like God is bigger than porn, which is, it might sound like a cliche, but it's exactly right.
Well, it's one of those things like where you see someone who's like your hero or something, and like I think of a marriage, you know, like and we actually, our first kid, like we had before we were married, and you're like, what? I mean, it's just things that like you think like, oh, if my kid
did that,
we're pregnant outside of marriage, or
I'd be
this,
so ashamed.
Like you just think that there's things that are impossible to come back, and pornography is a great example, just because again, like working with the college students, man, this is like a scourge on their generation, and they hate themselves because of it. You know what I mean? But like the good news is like, no, this is not a game over, you know, sign. You know, this is just like, this is a cry for help. This is the you know, saying that we need a savior. But like, it really is hard, I think, like when we have certain things and we're like, this means game over. It's really helpful to me to remember that, like, you know, and honestly, it's helpful for me to remind myself that there, you know, like there are things, like I look at my past in a rosy colored glasses, like, oh, well, I had this thing happen at a conference and I was praying, I was close to Jesus, you know, it's just like, yeah, but there were some other things I was doing that were like, you know, like, you know, there's some major disconnects. And so I think it's like, yeah, it's definitely helpful, I think, to remind yourself that, like, dude, there's nothing that cannot be overcome, defeated by Christ, you know.
So what did your wife say last night? Was that what you remembered?
So we were talking about this today, and I was like, Matt probably has nothing prepared. And
you were right.
No, we were just talking about like you know, things for today, and I don't know how pornography and some of that stuff came up, but she's like, I remember a really good conversation I had with Matt, you know, just saying like, look, at some point, like you've got to let that go, and not meaning like you don't fight against pornography,
you don't be vigilant,
but like I think what like the impetus was like, there were like, I don't know, a couple times, like, you know, the first time my kids came over, do they have you had asked us, which is awesome, do they have any access to the internet? Is there access to pornography? Do your kids have phone? You know, things that you want to know, like, you know, which is.
Sorry if I asked that too abrasively.
No, not at all. Okay. Not at all. But you know what I mean? But like, I think like a couple times later, you know, you start to realize like, no, dude, like this is important to us. But I think Kate saw something in you that she really related to, was like this fear of like, you know, sinking your battleship. Like, dude, even if somehow this crept in, somehow this gets in, it's not
all is well.
Game over. Yeah.
Yeah, all will be well.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciated that. That actually meant a lot. It's funny how things form you and you don't realize they're doing that at the moment. Like we were just having a beer on your property and she said that, and there was just something in me that went, oh, I just took a breath.
Yeah, I mean, thank God for friends that you could be vulnerable with, and you know, like shit. I agree. Like that's a huge blessing, man. Like when you're in the midst of the battle, you know, it's a really.
So I think for my dad, like it was just so important that I got good grades so I could be successful. And by successful, he probably just meant able to take care of your family and live a decent life. And I don't know where and that's a legitimate thing to want, but it felt like it was damaging our relationship. And what's funny is, if I could go back and as a 9-year-old kid who feels terrified because I'm crap at math and I hate school And the only thing I know how to do at school is to try to be funny because I get attention and I like attention and I feel ashamed about that. And right. But if I could have gone back and went, Dad, listen, it's all going to be okay because I'm going to be living in the States and I'm going to be running a podcast on this thing called the internet. Like he couldn't have conceived it.
Yeah.
And I can't, and you can't conceive what might be available for our children.
Yeah, it's really hard not.
And that doesn't mean don't be vigilant about them not seeing porn. It doesn't mean don't be concerned about them getting good grades or studying. But
yeah, man, it sure is hard as your kids get older to just, like the parenting part of you never goes away. And like, you just like, oh yeah, I want to come up with a plan. Like, what if you do this and this? And okay, you're facing a hardship. Like, what about this? And we're definitely not helicopter parents. Dude. Like, my kids, I wouldn't care if a teacher sent home a note that was a total lie that said like, your kid is ugly. I'd be like, you're going to go to school tomorrow and tell them you are ugly. Like I just like worked so hard to not be a helicopter parent that I feel like I tend towards like no, you gotta like grow some teeth, cut your teeth kind of thing. But there is a part of you that always wants to be like, well, yeah, what if I come up with some kind of plan and all, but that is like something like in my prayer that like lately I've felt like, man, it's really helpful to me to realize I don't got to come up with a plan. I don't have to, so with Vagabond Missions, it's nonprofit me and Kate started.
Give that a shout out just so people know what it is.
Yeah, so Vagabond Missions it's a ministry of inner city kids. We're in a bunch of different cities around the country, and it's a missionary organization. We have missionaries living with the people they serve. And
could you put a link in the description?
Get on that Thursday.
Thank you, Thursday.
What mom names her kid Thursday?
Her name was Friday.
But anyway, like with that, like it, there's a part of it that's, so there's a time where I stepped away. I'm still really a part of it, but like, I stepped away from leading it to be a Franciscan, and there's a part of you that's like, well, like I got to run this, man, or like, and I got to like make sure this keeps working, and I got to make sure this, and there's something about it that, where you're like, I have to make sure it works, and I have to save these kids, and I have to be quality control and do this, and and then you realize like, wait a second, man, like this is God's mission, this is God's ministry. I don't need to be the thing that saves us, that runs it, that whatever, and in a lot of ways, it's way better today than what it was when I led it. But like the same is true with my kids. Like I think, man, in an effort to, I want to be a good dad, and and I'm like this. I feel like a lot of times, like when it comes to, me and God and praying for someone, I'm just kind of like, well, I'm going to pray for that person, but I'm also going to plan everything that I can to like give them success and make sure there's, and there's something that's really scary, but also like really, it gives me a lot of peace to just be like, they're not mine to save. Like even my kids. It's one thing when you're talking about a company and mission, but even when your kids, like there's a guy in town here, Mike Hummel, that one time like they've got a whole bunch of kids, and there's a time where we were like, dude, what do you do? Like you're so worried. There had to be times when you were so worried about these kids, and he was like, all I do is I just get up in the morning and say I consecrate them to you, God, and just hope that was enough, And so there's something about that is really freeing to be like, they're not even my kids to save, to find a way. I don't need to come up with a plan for their life. Like God is bigger than me and better.
And I think what's interesting is as you let go of that unhealthy control, you actually end up becoming a better parent, right?
Yeah.
Because you just take a breath, and then you're more present, and you're more caring, and more understanding, and you're more interested, and you want to know what's going on, and you're not terrified.
Totally.
So the very thing you think you're going to lose by kind of letting a bit of control go, the opposite.
Yeah, there's like a false responsibility that's removed. Is like yes, you're responsible as a parent, especially when they're little. Like to care for their every need. Physical, moral, spirit. All these things. But like as they get older, like the false responsibility is like I still need to care for every need. And like when you remove that, like you said, like it not only is freeing, but it allows you to be more present to them, and it allows you to be, I just was reading, I mentioned to you earlier, The Great Divorce again, and there's a part in there where there's a parent who can't fathom the idea of being in heaven with her son and not providing for all his needs. Like she has a hard time realizing that God will satisfy her needs. She wants to be the person, the vehicle that satisfies all her son's needs, and would actually, she says in the end, like basically she'd rather her son be with her in hell where she would be the provider than to be in heaven where God's his provider. And it's just like that's a real temptation as a parent, to want to be needed, to want to come up with every plan. And
how do parents and how have you dealt with maybe seeing things in your children's life that you wish had have gone better or you wish were going better? Where do you draw the line between, maybe I was to blame for that, I need to repent of things, and I actually could have done things better? Because you also don't want to kind of just pretend you did everything right and therefore have no responsibility, because after all, I'm just abandoning these children to God every day because they're not mine to save. Mm-hmm. But then there's also the very fact that even if you and Kate were Jesus Christ and the Blessed Virgin Mary, Adam and Eve had the perfect parent, it's often said, and look what they did, right? So but how do you draw that line, or is that even useful doing that? Or
yeah, I think like for me, everyone's different, but like I'm a morning person. I get up in the morning. I love getting up early before my family's up and like praying for them. That gives me a ton of peace, just to.
What time do you get up?
5:30.
Wow.
I'm just a morning guy though, man. I feel really awesome.
I'm a morning guy too.
Okay. Yeah.
But do you have to intentionally go to bed early, or does your body just shut down?
My body, yeah.
I'm a bit like that.
Dude, my kids will want to watch something, and I'll sit down. I start falling asleep around 8. So like I feel like, and me and Kate will watch something in bed a lot of times. But most nights I'm to bed by between 9 and 10. But that's the time of the day like where I just feel the most like myself. And I heard someone say once like best time to pray is like when you can give God like the most the best version of yourself. So for me, like the morning, I just feel alive. I feel happy. I feel optimistic. I feel hopeful. By sunset, man, it's just, things are a little different. But anyway, in that time, like there's an image like I've had before of kind of like a man walking his so there was one time we got robbed. And not where we live now, but when we lived by you, it was like it was just a wild experience. There was lots of times like little thing, petty theft. Someone stole my trash cans once. Just the stupidest thing.
They must have needed.
You're just like, well, all right. But there was one time, the craziest thing. My wife was actually sleeping on the couch because I was snoring or something. This guy came in, stole the TV off the wall in the room she was in, stole a bunch, a ton of stuff. But
that's
that
ballsy.
morning when I woke up and I was like, did you move the TV? She's like,
please
I was
say
here
yes.
all night. Like some guy stole the TV, and took my wheelbarrow, filled it with stuff, and whatever. Thank God we were all right. But the next day, dude, I was so like. I have to defend my family. It's like in Home Alone, like I have to defend this property, and so I slept on the couch downstairs with a shotgun, just like praying, like, please let this guy come back and just, I don't have to kill him, dude. Just let me shoot him in the knee, just there was a part of you that just wants to defend your family, and so like I've had this image since then of just. Like waking up in the morning and just kind of like walking my house, like kind of swinging some spiritual nunchucks, just like bring it on. Like I'm going to cover my family in prayer. I'm going to lift them up to the Lord before anything could face them today. And it's kind of goes back to like that guy I said, Mike, like it was just like there's a piece there of just saying like I surrender them to you today. I don't have what it takes to be the perfect parent today, but I'm gonna surrender them to you. Ask you cover them, ask you defend them. Help me be a good dad today. But like that gives me a lot of peace. It gives me a lot of hope. Just this morning, I was praying about like I've been getting into imaginative prayer. I used this thing earlier with Father Timothy Gallagher, and I had never done that before. I saw that you did a podcast about it because it was cool. I started looking up other resources. But
what's that, with Hallow or?
It was with Hallow. Yeah. So Father Timothy Gallagher did this. He takes you through the Ignatius exercises.
Can I be cheesy and say we need to do an ad for Hallow? So can we do that now?
Totally, dude. Totally.
Hallow.com/Matt Fradd. If you go to that URL and sign up there, you'll get 3 months for free, and you can try out everything that's on the app for 3 months before even having to pay a cent. If you don't like it after 3 months, you can cancel. I have it. My wife has it. There's a ton of great things, like Dr. Bob Schutz and Sister Miriam James do these healing courses. They have audio books. They have people like Mark Wahlberg leading the rosary. They have Jonathan Rumi leading the rosary. So if you're trying to get more consistent...
They got LL Cool J doing morning prayer. I mean, there's all kinds of...
I don't even know who that is.
It's a joke.
Right. They have sleep stories. They have like Bible stories. I did this for my kid the other night. He didn't want to go to bed. We'll play the Gospel of John. So he was asleep, and I played the Gospel of John on my phone, turned it off, and put it on the ledge above where he was sleeping. It's really great. So
it's awesome. So I actually called them because I did this leaders retreat, and I had just me and Gabe, who I work with, just did in the summer the Ignatius exercises where we did the morning prayer. And the great thing about it, man, is like he not only teaches you how to do imaginative prayer, but he also teaches you here's kind of the mindset. Here's what you should do before you fall asleep. Okay. You're going to pray in the morning. It really gets you into it. And I got into it this summer, and I don't know why I've never done that before. It probably seemed cheesy or abstract to me. And even though I am cheesy and abstract, I don't know why I never did it before. And but one of the first things he does in there is takes you through this imaginative prayer with the Nativity, and I had a powerful experience this summer in doing that. I was just praying with it this morning and having this experience of Mary handing you Jesus, the Christ child, letting you hold him for a minute, as a shepherd or whatever, is what I was imagining. But then I had this thought of handing Jesus to each of my kids, letting them hold him for a minute, and it's just such a wild image of just being saved, being redeemed just by holding this baby, this Christ child near me, and then just him being near each of my kids for a minute. There's something about that, to me, that gives me a ton of peace, and a ton of joy of just you will redeem them. I don't need, and you hear this all the time when you're doing evangelization or you're speaking, or some people are you're not the one that's converting hearts, or you're just the messenger or something, and there's a part of you but I better give a freaking good talk, that I better, but there's a part of you, even as a parent, I think that you're I know God's their father and all that kind of stuff. But there is the more I feel you can realize your role is relatively small, and I was going to share this when you were talking about that too. This has given me a lot of hope, working with these teens in Vagabond Missions, in the inner city, and not all of them, but a lot of them. I could call to mind some teens that have had some really bad dads, some really absentee dads, and the way they talk about their father, even honestly, the way they talk about either of their parents sometimes, where they'll be my dad was a crackhead, or my dad, he hasn't been around, but I the couple times I've spent with him, he's on, the way that they love their parent, or the way that God has, been able to kind of work miracles in their life, regardless of the complete absenteeism of some of their parents, or even the neglect or abuse even of some of their parents, make me think damn, dude, I'm trying pretty friggin' hard. If they're gonna be okay with that, I'm gonna be all right. It gives me some I always go back to with Vagabond, but this has been influential in my life, is just that Paschal mystery, from death, life, resurrection is just, dude, if we're at this point where you're dude, I'm blood, sweat, and tears here, you can be all right, man,
And then I want people to know that they could become missionaries with Vagabond. If there's anyone out there between what ages, what's the...
Yeah, I mean, we don't really put, we've had people anywhere from like a gap year after high school, all the way up to, our age, give a year, 2, 3, 10, years. And it really is, it's an amazing like opportunity, I feel like, to kind of push all your chips to the middle, just if make a poker analogy, just be like, hey, I feel like we don't have many of those in the modern world, like we read about these stories where, where Peter's like, he left his boat, like, or these people like, Jesus, like, just come follow me right now. Don't worry about them, or don't worry about your job or your family. And like, we don't have too many opportunities like this, but I feel like it's one of those opportunities where you're just like, yeah. And probably the most standard age that we get is like right after college. And I always say, like, man, you do have this wild window right after college where, like, even thinking about this, like, I got married the night I graduated, dude. And I had the day before. The night
you graduated?
Yeah. Wow. So the night before, or the afternoon before I got married, I had a final. And, the next day I got married, 9 months and 1 day later we had our daughter. And, but even with that, dude, like there's this time in your life where you're like, I'm not settling into all these payments and I don't have all these plans and things that I'm like, linked to. And, there's this great gift you have as a young person, like in that window of life where you're just like, you can throw caution to the wind and be like, I am going to do something wild. Yeah. And it's a small window and it passes quick. And and then you're like, well, I got mortgage payments and I got 8 kids and I got this and I got a promotion to think of, or this or that, but you have this one crazy opportunity to just throw caution to the wind and be like, I am going to just follow Christ. And it's going to seem crazy and some of my family might not like it and it might not be like the best career move. Yeah. But the thing that we found is like these missionaries that end up like serving us, like they have perspective in their marriage and their jobs and their life, like for the rest of, their time on earth, that like changes everything, like, and it really is like it's a pretty cool time, I feel like, to give it a go.
What's the URL?
What is a URL?
What is the URL?
I've no clue. Vagabondmissions.com.
Vagabondmissions.com. And
I was trying to think if there was something more complicated to the URL. I was like sweating, like, what's a URL again?
So they can apply there.
If you go to vagabondmissions.com.
I'm sure you get teens and young adults who come in and what they're thrown into is completely different to how they were raised. Kind of like how you were raised in a suburb of Philadelphia. That must be a very awkward transition. It reminds me of Mike Gormley, friend of ours, who runs the podcast Catching Foxes with Luke. He started, bless him, doing prison ministry. And he was really nervous about kind of going in and giving a talk to these inmates. And apparently the fella who introduced Mike to give the talk's like, now be kind to Mike. He's really nervous about being here. I was like, no. But it's just so different.
He's a big dork. So let's just go easy on him.
So what was that? What is that like for kids who come from white suburbia?
To be honest, so like we do have a good cultural mix. Like we got kind of just about every cultural represented. Because like in different parts of the country, there's different. Some of those areas are there. There's a part of Queens we're in where it was white Irish kids. That we were dealing with. There's parts of Wichita that are only Spanish speaking. You know what I mean? So like there's parts that are primarily black. And also lots of different cultures. And we are blessed with having lots of different ethnicities. But like that experience of feeling like, oh, I'm ill-equipped. Like whether I was a white or black or Korean or whatever, it doesn't, like I did not grow up in what they grew up in. And there is, the worst thing you could do is just pretend, you know what I mean? It's just to be like, yeah, man, I listen to rap, or I do this or what, like they don't want the fakeness. No. But more than anything, like when we do our interviews, some of the best missionaries we've had are missionaries that I think like, and I think the same thing with volunteers. Like there's sometimes we get a volunteer and I'm just like, man, I cannot I don't know why this person's volunteering. I cannot imagine like they're going to go over great. And then they end up being awesome. Like,
Really?
they're just some weird engineer dad, older person. And they just, but like the main thing I feel like everyone wants, I was going to say that these teens want, these young people want, but really it's all of us. Like is you just want someone to notice you, to love you. You know what I mean? Like, so I always be like, look, if you have a relationship with Christ and you're willing to love these young people, you'll do fine. Like,
I remember, like I served with Net Ministries, which is a ministry to high school students. We'd travel around, lead high school retreats. And there was a girl with us who was just so afraid that she was in the wrong place. She's like, these people are far more enthusiastic, extroverted, talented than I am. And one of the talks was like, really what you need to do is just to love these teens. And she had this epiphany where she's like, I can definitely do that. That's it.
Yeah, and that's honestly like it changed my life in the sense that like when we started doing this ministry in New York, like dude, we were crying, we didn't want to do it. Like it was something that we're like, dude, it wasn't what I thought we were getting into. It just I feel like the Lord kind of suckered us into it. But the thing that changed everything was I think this idea of evangelization. When I think like when I was in college or something, or even so many times I talked to like my mom's friends or something, like people like, they'll be like, oh, what Scott Hahn is doing. And dude, Scott Hahn is awesome. You know what I mean? But like, we're not all called to be Scott Hahn, like you don't have to be able to like quote the Lamb's Supper or know like exegetical principles in order to evangelize someone, in order to like bring someone into an encounter with Christ. It's actually probably like more helpful not to like get into that, you know what I mean? Because like the things that like when we like send new missionaries into a city, there's all the times we were open to say, like we just opened in Philadelphia, and like like man, one of the first things to do is just like get to know people in the city, walk around the streets a bunch, get to know the shop owners, and like one of the first things we always do is just like grill. Like we just grill on the sidewalk and give a hot dog to anyone who's come by. It don't matter what their age is, why they, what are you doing this for? How much are they? Nothing, man. We're just
but what do you really want? Really nothing.
Right. But there is something about that I feel like, if you realize, man, you know what? People respond best to love. People respond best to friends. Like you're like, well, apologetics might not always work, or this method might not always work. Door to door might not always work. Net might not always work. Retreat might not always work. But you know what always works? Friendship. Yeah. It's just like there's like never been a time like where we've been like, man, we've been trying friendship here in, Oklahoma City, and it's just not working here. It's just like, no, dude, friendship works with everyone because that's like it's a human need, and so combining that, like, I feel like all of a sudden, like there's a really like beautiful freedom in being like, I don't have to be Scott Hahn. I don't have to be Matt Fradd. I just could grill hot dogs and like hang out with people, and in the context of that, like God can begin something amazing.
That's really great. Yeah, I didn't know that you were upset about having to start this ministry, or at least conflicted.
Yeah. I mean, it was super conflicted, man. I remember this one time when I was when we had first started. Kate was pregnant with one of our first couple kids, and it's like, man, I felt like she was like always pregnant. I would say she was either pregnant or wegnant, or like pregnant or waiting to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And she was pregnant, very pregnant, and I was in Atlanta doing some ministry down there for something, and she called me one night. She was supposed to be leading a Bible study, and she's like, we were just about to start faith night, that's what we called it, and she's like, there's these two vans here, they're just putting all the kids into the van, like police vans, they're just loading them in like paddy wagons, like just because it was just these two groups that came to fight, and and I came back and we were just like, like, why are we doing this? This isn't what we wanted, this isn't what like we were hoping for our life. And it was kind of like one of those like moments where you could really walk away and be like, no, or you could be like, maybe there's something here, like maybe God knows us better than we know us, or maybe God has.
I could see myself saying like, this is important work, but I have to put my wife first. I have to put my family first.
Yeah.
Dealing with that.
Yeah, totally. And thank God I have such a like a holy risk-taking wife. I feel like I could have had a wife. Yeah, right. That
Thank God.
They could have just been like, no, dude, that's bizarre. That's weird. I feel like most of the ideas in my life, now not all of them, thank God, but like I feel like when I have a weird idea, most of the time my wife's like, all right, let's try it. You know what I mean? And occasionally it'd be like, no, we're not doing that. You know, but that it was one of those moments where I felt like we're either going to embrace this or we're not. And it was at that time I felt like we were like, dude, this is what we want to be a part of this somehow for the rest of our life. And that's, when Vagabond started. But yeah, it was definitely not, you know, that scripture, like, you duped me. And I let myself be duped. That's totally how I felt. Like, you know, it's just like the Lord tricked me, but like I kind of wanted to be tricked. You know, like I didn't want to live just a lame, normal existence. You know, just you know. But I kind of felt like, well, that's what I should do. You know, and I should have this kind of a life and this kind of a family. But it was like all along, like the Lord knew, like I kind of wanted to be duped. You know.
Yeah. What is a glory story from your ministry? What is something that's perhaps happened recently or something that stands out where you were like, wow, the Lord really used us to bring about this good thing?
Gosh, there's a lot. I mean, one of the ones that I feel like is kind of cool maybe to share because it's a full circle story from what we were just talking about. So when we first started in New York, there was this kid, Joe, who would come to he started coming to stuff, but he would just come at the end of the night. We had this old abandoned convent that we would like do stuff in, and so a lot of times we would just play loud music in the parking lot, and we were like, there was a lot of neighborhoods around, and so people would just come, and it was just kind of wild. But he would always come without his shirt, and he would we called him Muscles. He wasn't muscular, he was like a stick, but like here comes Muscles, you know, like, and he'd be high out of his mind, dude. He'd just be and he would want to do the games and all that stuff. He was fun, but he was just an idiot, you know. He was just like kind of a stoner. He had dropped out of high school. And he would always get in fights. That was the other thing. Even though he was like a stick, he would always get in fights. And then one day he came on a retreat, and he had this powerful like encounter at Adoration. Like him and his buddy were like crying, holding each other, dude. And the wild thing was like back then too, like they didn't even know what was going on. Like I remember there were times like where kids like that gold thing came, that man holding that gold thing came out, and you know they didn't know. Like I had a kid once who was like, that when that man walked around with the gold thing, I felt like Jesus told me, like, you're going to do what this man does one day. You know, like, it was like so cool. Like he didn't know he was a priest, didn't know that was the Eucharist. It just like and so there's something about like, sometimes I feel like we set things up culturally to be like, well, during Adoration, if we play a song, you're going to cry. And but they didn't know what it was. And so there was something even more true about it. But he was, had this powerful experience, and he would come into like, so I would lead music at Mass. And there was this one time I could think in particularly where I'm like leading the offertory song or whatever. And I could see him in the back row, and he's like making out with this girl in the back row during Mass, dude, with no shirt on. And I like put down my guitar. I'm like, knock it off, dude. Like, what the hell are you doing?
You know, your guitar and went to the back, and
yeah, I mean, it was like at the end of the song, you know what I mean? But I was so mad, dude. Yeah, I wanted to like grab his hair, and I no, yeah, and whatever. I was mad, dude. You know, you
got the candles, the lights down, the ambiance. You're playing music. What do you expect?
So the wild thing is this. Okay, so we had this time where like. That the next week after that time, and he had also started a fight that next week, but the following youth group night, I had all these. They were called core members, but they were just the volunteers. They're like, Bob, we need to meet with you. They called this meeting behind my back, and they're like, we decided like if you don't do something about asking Joe Cipriano to leave, we're quitting. You know. And I was like, you know, full of piss and vinegar. I was 23, you know.
You're like, quit.
Yeah, I was like, go ahead and leave, dude. Because you know what, when Joe, I mean, I was like feeling like, you know, like a movie, you know, like, yeah. I was like, because if Joe leaves, like, I hope someone else like Joe joins, you know, and like we're gonna keep doing that, you know. I was like fired up, you know, and that like so the cool thing is like half of them did quit that night, and then the other half. Like who didn't quit, like so Joe ended up like having this encounter like later that fall on retreat, and they would always for years, even after I left, they'd be like, we always tell that story of Joe, you know, when people like want to quit and they want to give up on kids, because Joe ended up having, so he was out of college. I got him to get his GED, and then he started taking classes at like the local community college. And he was, he would come into my office and hang out in the youth ministry office, and he would take these classes. And then he ended up going to Steubenville, and then he ended up like working in the different dioceses. He was the diocesan director of Oklahoma City. Dude, this is like how far this kid came. And now, just this past year, he was like, because I asked him back in the day, and he was like, no, I really feel like God wants me to be in a parish like you were, which was cool. And he was in a couple different parishes in Kentucky and Texas. And then he was the diocesan director in Oklahoma City. But he was like, I want to do Vagabond. And so he is starting Oklahoma City Vagabond. And so he's the director for that whole area. And this is a kid that was just an idiot, a craphead, like, coming into mass with no shirt on, smoking weed. And I feel like you see something like that and you're like, man, it really is like conversion. Pauline, like conversion is like still possible.
Wow. That's powerful.
Yeah, really.
Imagine
powerful.
what would have happened if you had have caved to those core members and kicked him out. Where would he be right now?
Yeah, I know. That's how holy I am.
And I'm sure I could see the argument. Like, I'm not saying that they were wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, he's disrupting everything.
Yeah.
People aren't coming to Christ who may have because of what it. So I see the argument.
And I've had just as many people, to be forthright, like I've had just as many people that have poured more time than I did in years into resources, defended,
nothing happened.
And they, I had one that was living with me. He stole a bunch of stuff from me, ran away. Yeah, like there's been lots of horrible things that didn't work out. But that, as far as a glory story, I think like, man, that's really cool for me because it's like full circle. And actually three of those young people that were from New York during that time are all working for Vagabond right now. Like that were kids in that. It's pretty cool. One is leading a site in Mobile, Alabama. One's here in Steubenville. So it's pretty cool to see.
Did you ever find yourself feeling bitter or upset against kind of mainstream youth ministry that wasn't bringing in people from the fringes?
Yeah. Yeah. And, there's sometimes like, honestly, I think most times, like when I would bring that up, like they would respond. Like, for instance, at the time we were doing Life Teen, and I remember like calling Randy Rouse, who's, I think he still is in charge of Life Teen, and being like, man, where's people that are doing this kind of, and I definitely was too angry, I was too arrogant, and all this kind of stuff. But like, where are other people doing this? Like, we need to be doing it to this people, not just white kids in suburbia and this and that. And he was like, yeah, you're right. You know what I mean? Like, so
how do we do it?
Help us, yeah, and let's be a part of it. And now they do lots of different. But you know what they would always do, man? They would let our kids come to their conferences free.
Really?
They would, yeah. I mean, even now, dude, they just let all of our staff go out to their camp. And so like,
That's
a lot of
beautiful.
times they did the same thing at the Steubenville conferences, and some of it's misdirected anger, which I think sometimes people get caught in that moment. Like for me, there was definitely a time where I hated rich people, I hated mainstream ministry, I hated Republicans, I hated the university. It's just like, but it's just like this immature sense of just like this knee jerk, like, oh, all these people don't care about the poor, they don't care about like really helping. They just want, and it's an easy place to stay in because you're just kind of looking at a caricature and you're making all these really black and white judgments on people. When in reality, most people, they really do want to be a part. Like even now, I like when I'm telling like missionaries about, networking with donors, with pulling in people with donors, I say like one of the really cool things about like, for instance, fundraising is like most people, they want to be a part of a story like this. They just don't have an opportunity. You know what I mean? And so it's like really hard. Like, honestly, you're a great example of that. I feel like anytime I'm telling you a story about someone in town, like, oh, I got this kid who's like, you're like, dude, let me come over. Let me be a part of that again. And that was like just this last thing this fall was really cool. You being, but not everyone always has the opportunity to like have these interactions. And so it's really cool to like, if you give people the benefit of the doubt, most of the time, in some way, they want to be a part of the story.
Yeah,
it's
just
they
not
don't
their
always have the
world.
opportunity.
It's not like that's not my world.
Yeah.
And maybe it should be. And there's an argument that, well, you should make yourself be more uncomfortable. Like I should go down to the friendship room and like volunteer there weekly. And maybe if I was a better man, I would, But yeah, having someone kind of invite you into it is really great. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so I feel like that easily could have been, I could have been, kind of stuck in that, stuck in that spot, but I think that,
and maybe if you had have brought this up to the leaders of these ministries and they had have shown genuine apathy, you would have been right to feel that way. But it might just be like, that's just not, help us. Help,
Yeah. One of the things that like, I feel like every time, like even when I went to the university here, when I wasn't at the university, I was like, hey, like there's these kids, like we if we want to make this not just white middle-class kids, like let's be more intentional about who we invite. Let's scholarship people. Let's, invite, and they're like, yeah, it's a good idea. I mean, so they scholarship all kinds of people, and they did, marketing to other people groups, so it's pretty cool to see. Like most of the time, I think that the church wants to be doing the right thing. It's just sometimes you don't have the opportunity. Yeah.
How important is it that these conferences have a diverse group of people speaking from the front, leading music, and
it's a really big deal. So during I told you there were 4 years where I stopped doing them, and one of the things that was really significant for me, and I've always said since then, like, dude, every speaker, every kind of career, like speaker at these Steubenville conferences should take at least one summer and just sit in the crowd, dude. Sit with a group of kids, you know, like be a chaperone, bring a group, and just, you have to sit through every talk. You see just how long everything is. But the other cool thing is, like, you see some of the stuff that, like, when you're like a part of ministry that you kind of pick apart, like, oh, this could have been better. Like, you see, like, there is a genuine anointing that's bigger than just like being a good speaker or having a good musician or whatever. So it's both sides. But one of the times during those 4 years, I was with a group of our teens, and at that conference, Brian Greenfield was speaking. Yeah, you friends with him? He's a good dude, man. And he is a black speaker who is awesome and just very authentic, very engaging. And we had, you know, a group of probably 25 kids that are all black. And some of these kids had actually come into the church. They'd gone through RSA. They're in the church. Some, you know, they were new. But at the end of the, like, Saturday night, like, we sat around like a normal youth group and did sharing. And I was like, so what was most significant? You know, what was the best part of the conference for you? And I'm so used to, like, youth groups being like, adoration, you know, like, and just one after another, they were like, oh, you know, when that other black guy got up and was talking, like, it was so significant for them to see someone else that looked like them. Yeah. They're like, all I had ever seen is like a African priest that was like visiting the church. And you realize, like, man, like I'm not in that same boat, you know. So you don't, like, you know, I've been in some of those conversations where you're talking about speakers, and you're like, we need more women speakers, we need more, like, diverse speakers, and this and that. And you're like, you get that it's an important thing, but then seeing how significant it was, like, they remember every word he said, dude, and it was like so powerful for them to see, like, okay, here's someone who looks like me, who is also Catholic, you know, and they don't always, like, I had one of my godsons who came into the church, like, he told me once, like, and this is back kind of around some of the George Floyd stuff, it just, the times of Black Lives Matter, that stuff came out, and he was saying, like, I just am really struggling, like, some of these things. He was saying he was reading Malcolm X, and he was like, I just, you know, I'm afraid, like, I just joined the white man's church, you know? And I mean, in the end, I had to say to him, like, this isn't my cross, you know, so I don't want to, like, be, like, unauthentic here by sharing, like, by saying, like, no, that's not the case, you know, there's plenty minority, you know, like, so I don't want to be insincere here, but, like, the one thing I told him is, like, the church has some deep roots in, you know, in parts of the world that are filled with minorities. And if you look at the places in the world right now where the church is thriving, you know, just absolutely thriving, there are places like Africa, like South America, you know, like these places. So, like, it's not true that that's the case, but in his lived experience, that was the case, dude. You know, it was like very much the case that like we go to this church over here is mainly all white people, and we all sat in a couple pews that like here's the black people, you know, like, and there was no intention of that, but like it was so significant for them to experience, you know, and just like any of us, you know, I want to hear someone talk to me about holiness or give me an example of holiness that I could relate to, you know, that uses words that I like, you know, that looks kind of like how I, you know, and culturally, I mean, that's kind of what we all want. But so for them, it was wild, you know.
I'm just relating here as you're speaking. Like as an Australian, I started a Life Teen parish in Brisbane, Australia, because that was the best thing in the church that looked like cool and like it could work. And even for me, I was like, all the analogies they use are American. You know, everything's American. It's baseball analogies, and like none of our kids get this. And so I could see someone saying, well, why are you so concerned about that? Like, and you're like, well, I'm concerned because we don't relate to it.
Right.
And so if I can see that,
totally,
then I can see why they.
Yeah. And you realize like sometimes when I talk to youth ministry classes, I'm talking about mission work. You know, you could say, okay, well, Tony over here is going to Zimbabwe to do mission work, you know, and you're like, that's awesome. Tony, what do you know about Zimbabwe? Like, I don't know much, you know, like, do you know what they eat? Do you know what kind of music they listen to? Do you know like what their day structure looks like? Do you know like what kind of songs they sing? You're like, no, I don't know any of that. You're like, well, you still can make an impact. Like you could still go and paint some houses or give out balloons, hug people, you know, and still like have some kind of impact. But like the amount of impact you could have would be so much greater if you realize that like people experience life and furthermore, people experience God within culture, which is why it's like so important to not sidestep culture. It's like the tidal wave we talked about earlier. Like culture is not just a tidal wave when it comes to bad stuff. Culture is also just, that's how we experience each other. It's how we experience God, you know? And so for the church to do that, and I think that, you know, when we study like missionary saints, it's always been at its best when we embrace culture. It's always been at its worst when we demonize culture or we forget about culture, you know? So it's a pretty big deal, but I do think the church is aware of it, and I don't think that's the trend anymore, that we demonize it or that we sidestep it. I mean, it happens, but I don't think by and large it's people are trying to do that, you know.
Thank you. I know that to take a hard left turn after that wonderful conversation, I know that these are you Gen Z, Neil? What is Gen Z?
Gen Z is 95 to people disagree on the year. I think
Gen Z is millennials?
No. So millennials are 85 to 95.
Wow.
So I was almost the science guy over here. Sorry, man. Sorry, I got it wrong.
Can you pass me that scotch? I was born in 83, so I just missed the millennials.
Millennial.
No.
Millennial and Gen Z, but really, I think I skew more towards the Gen Z kind of stereotypes and like identify with that group and the way that we like interact with technology and stuff growing up.
Yeah, the other thing is generations, I think, and there's no like actual research, generational research. This is my personal opinion. Generations are getting smaller because the technology that affects them at a younger age is changing so rapidly.
Interesting.
I heard that too,
like I would technically be probably considered the same generation as Matt's two oldest kids.
Yeah.
But like the
Are
majority
you
of
one of
like,
Matt's kids?
No.
When were you born?
They can't
99.
see the camera on you. I just
18
want to.
what?
99.
99. You were one when I came to Christ. Remarkable.
I got married in 99, bro.
Cool.
He doesn't care, dude. Gen Z or
No, but it's true. Like I think in many respects, like you have perhaps more in common with my son, who's 14, than you have with me.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I think like that, like the idea that I'm somehow in the same generation is most like, but that's because your kids are not as exposed to technology and stuff. Like most 14 to 15 year olds, I cannot relate to them at all. Like,
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I can't, I have a hard time standing being around 14 and 15 year olds most of the time in the larger culture, just because they're so tech absorbed and like so pop culture that like they can't have conversations about things that actually exist. So
Well, I asked them to put together a list of Gen Z slang to see if, because people say things in my comment section whenever I check it. I'm like, what does this mean? Is this a typo? Like, no, you're kidding. That means this. I'm like, I don't know.
This is related, Matt. You said take a hard left, but you were talking about culture. This is culture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Matt.
that's true.
this is culture.
See,
So
he still doesn't understand, guys.
So the format I think we should do here is
Bob's way more likely.
to get these. So
Than
I
I
think
am, yeah.
I think I pitch him.
Okay.
Matt takes a swing.
I'm going to take a swing at what they mean.
okay.
Bob either corrects him or guesses,
Okay.
and then if you're both wrong, I'll explain it.
Okay.
All right.
All right. The first one is based and cringe.
So does based mean cool and cringe mean awkward?
Cringe. Yeah, cringe is definitely that. I don't know. Based.
So based in opposition to cringe, like it started out as a political thing. So like you would say, like people in the political sphere would say, like my guy is based and your guy is cringe. So like Trump is based and Joe Biden is cringe.
Based like with a T at the end or ed?
Based like ed, yeah.
So okay. So what
So
does it mean?
say something doctrinally sound.
There are three persons in God.
Yeah, that's based.
Okay, so it's true.
It's a statement of agreement basically,
Okay.
or it's cool or agreement or anything.
So
else like that.
what does cringe mean in addition to just awkward?
Like I saw I don't know if this was a joke, so I don't want people to think this actual book exists, but I saw yesterday on the internet, I saw a cover of a book and it said hold on, I want to find it. It said making money from the coming rapture, or like profiting from the coming rapture.
I wrote that book, but that's fine. That's fine.
Like that's a cringe thing.
See, I feel like cringe has been on the scene too long that when people say cringe, I find it cringe. Do they even say it?
How to profit from the coming rapture, getting
I'm
ahead
cooler
when
than
you're
Gen
left
Z.
behind.
I knew that. Wow. Hey.
Yeah,
That's cringe because it's what?
Because it's not based.
Oh, God.
They're opposites.
I
Okay.
hate that generation.
Yeah. All right. Bob's definitely going to get this one.
I
so
think
can't
the
wait for
older
Matt.
you are, the better you are. If you've been around here longer, you're definitely better than these people, objectively speaking. The other people I don't like at all is anybody who says LOL or LMAO. These people are the scum of the earth, in my estimation.
Who says it out loud or texts it?
When they text it, but when they text it, okay, I need some clarity here or context. When they text it with a snarky comment, that's what I don't like. If they just LOL, it was funny, I don't appreciate them, I don't respect them. But if they say something snarky and then say LOL, it's like someone laughing at their own joke.
Yeah,
to
my kids
hype
text
their
me
own
stuff all the
comment
time.
up.
They'll be like, "Do you want me to pick up some milk?" LOL. Like that little.
What does that mean?
It's just like in there, dude. It's just like in the.
Do they know how
Like,
to text
where are you?
without-
LOL. They'll just be in there, dude. It's
So
just,
if I ever respond to comments that say LOL, which I don't, I always make sure I say LOL.
it's just like
in
saying
return.
you know, it's just like are you at the store? LOL.
All right. You want another?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
LOL.
Lol.
LMAO.
So the word cap or no cap.
I have no idea what that means. I just
Do
think
you know
of,
that one? I feel like you might actually know it.
Yeah, it's a
I think when
lie.
I
lie.
hear, what?
Cat means lie.
Cap means lie? How would you say it in a
that's
sentence?
cap.
That's cap. Like that's not true. Like
Where did that come from?
No clue.
Okay.
Or like
But my
if you're
stupid
lying,
kids say it all
you
the time.
capping.
Your stupid kids say that?
yeah. Like well, I mean like my kids.
Ah.
Yeah. I just should have said my kids. Like this cap.
From now
guy.
on, when you say kids, I'll just assume stupid kids.
Oh, dude, I
That's cap?
Yeah, sometimes when they like talk to me with that stuff, it makes me so mad, dude. I got in a big fight with one of my kids. I'm not gonna say who, Toby, but we were like in a genuine fight, dude, like bad fight, and he said, "I feel like you're not giving me my props." That's what he said, dude. And which isn't even like a relevant phrase, but I was like, I'm more mad than anything this fight is about that you just said that to me, dude. And we hung up. We were on the phone, dude. I was so mad, dude. Yeah, I mean,
That's not even in the list.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh, dude. So when they use like, you're like, don't use that.
So how does someone say no cap?
Like they're not lying. No cap. Like, you know, like I just
okay.
like, you know, got like a cheeseburger for 5 cents. No cap. Like they're not lying.
Cool. Thank you. Next one.
All right. I got another opposite in here, but I want to skip to sus.
Does that mean suspicious?
Yeah, bro, you know, man.
So if someone says that's sus, they mean they doubt
Sus.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, or just like
you
that guy
you're
is
acting
sus.
Yeah.
You're acting sus. Like, yeah, and I feel like there's not like a direct relation with cringe, but it's kind of like also just like sus, like suspect, but also like just if it seems off, like at all. That's sus, dude.
Yeah, I think I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
that one
relatively
comes
new.
from in a video game.
Okay.
Okay.
Drip.
Drip. I have no idea.
Come
what
on,
drip
dude.
means. Give it to me in a sentence and I'll know. Maybe I don't know what drip
Be
means.
like,
Bob's got some nice drip going
be
on
like,
today.
check out the drip, you know, like, or I'm super drippy
Like
today.
your
you know?
style? Or?
Yeah, drip,
Yeah,
like your
yeah, yeah.
your swag.
Your
That's like
fit. You know
fit.
what I mean?
Yeah, your outfit.
See, in England, I think they say fit to mean like actually in shape and looking beautiful. Huh?
No,
Nah,
like
you're
like
fit.
nice fit, dude. You know, be like nice outfit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Next one?
Say less.
No
You
idea.
ever heard people say less?
No.
Means like they agree with you. Like say less, bro. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you say that in everyday parlance?
No, I say none of
Do you
these
say
except
parlance?
for based in cringe in everyday parlance.
Say less. Really? All right, so
Yeah.
I'll say something like this, and you like, this is really good scotch.
Say less, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
Does that mean you don't need to say anything at all?
Yeah, it means
It
like
speaks for itself?
Yeah, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
I think the phrase really is when you're like halfway through saying something like, "Oh, what if we like stop somewhere to?"
Yeah. Say less.
Say
Like
less.
you don't need to keep going. You've said enough. I see.
Yeah.
All right.
Bussin'.
No.
Bussin'.
Actually, I'm losing respect for myself as I'm learning the definition for these things, and I'm going to try really hard to not remember them.
Dude, we should start telling Matt they mean other stuff so he says it. Like, this is like a compliment.
That's bussin'.
This is a compliment you give to your mother-in-law when she looks really pretty.
Okay, what does bussin' mean?
Bussin', like, be like, this sandwich is bussin'. You know, it's like bustin'. Like it's awesome. Like it's a compliment. You know?
This sandwich is bussin' for real, no cap.
No cap, bro.
I love that you tried to explain bussin' by saying busting, as if I would then know what that meant. It's like just saying like this sandwich is busting. Oh, I don't know what that means.
Well, just I mean, like think of like just keep going like bursting. You know, like it's good, man. It's like a
This is bussin'.
bussin'.
Bussin',
Also,
bussin' means
bussin'
good.
Respectfully is a
Respect what?
that's a modification. You say this sandwich is bussin' respectfully.
Respectfully.
Yeah, that's more of like a Pints with Aquinas, like
Yeah,
right?
because if you
verbiage.
call a person bussin', it's a very it's a compliment, but it's a cat call equivalent compliment.
Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
You know, like,
Yeah, I
Okay.
feel like it's more like typically
People-
about a shirt or
People
a food.
said something 8 years ago, and I don't know what it means, and I'd like you to tell me what it means.
5 or 8 years ago.
I have one underhand.
you-
I have one underhand pitch here, Matt,
All right.
Okay.
and I think you'll know this one. Goat.
Goat,
Yeah.
the greatest of all time.
There
Yeah,
we
bro.
go. Okay, we got one.
Child's play.
And so, do you say that about people,
Tom
or
Brady.
things, or anything?
Tom Brady.
All right. So
Get
here's
mad
what
in
I
the
don't understand.
comments.
What does on fleek mean? Does that mean like it means good? But what is that? Is that
I
people
think it-
say that anymore?
People don't say it anymore.
Yeah, no one said that. Fleet. I mean, good. Like yeah.
But where did that come from?
I have no idea.
I think it originated for some reason. It was originally only when your eyebrows looked good they were on fleek, which I don't know. There's probably some actual like mimetic meaning to that.
Mhm.
Eyebrows.
I guess I should
But
start
since
pulling
then
up.
it's gone to like
Okay.
at least that's where
It's fascinating how these things go out of
yeah,
fashion
fleek,
style.
trill, like those are all like around the same time. I feel like it's like it means cool. You know.
All right. What's another one?
Catch these hands.
What?
Like fight.
Yeah.
Catch these hands.
Yeah.
Okay, give it to me in a sentence.
Like
Bro,
you ain't
you-
trying to catch these hands, bro.
Yeah.
Like you're not trying to fight.
Yeah. You leaning,
What does that mean?
like leaning in, like you want to fight.
You're leaning. Okay.
You leaning.
Cool.
Main character. I probably have to use that one in a sentence to explain it.
Main character. All right.
Like that guy over there. He's the main character.
Is that like the alpha?
It's like it's a saying that kind of means like we're all living as like background characters in this guy's story. Like and what's going on? It's about that guy over there.
Okay.
None of
I like
us
that, bro.
matter.
That's like Chris
I like
Stefanik.
that.
Chris Stefanik's the main character.
I like that a lot. So then how would you say it about Chris Stefanik in a sentence?
That dude's the main character,
Is the main character.
or that dude's main character.
He's main character. Okay.
yeah.
I like it.
This is a compliment you give to someone. Snack.
Have you heard that?
Yeah, but I feel like that's a lot of times like if I hear kids give that, like I'm thinking about inner city kids, like the girls do not like that. Like if they say like she's a snack right there, like it's kind of like I feel like it's a little like
Okay.
yeah, like a snack, what I mean, like, but it's I don't know. I feel like it's got some like
Is that what you think it means?
That may be how it's used in that context. We say it to just mean like it's a general compliment, like you're looking good today, But
And how would you say
also,
it? You're looking. How would you say it?
yeah, I walk up to a guy if I think one of my guy friends is like looking good today, I'd be like, "Yo, you looking like a snack today, dude." And
Okay.
just like you
Yeah.
got to say it with a little sarcastic.
yeah,
'cause
it's
it
like
does have-
it's a little wink wink, but like I feel like
But you mean it?
when you hear it like in a rap song or something or
No.
like a thought
Never
or
listened to
something,
rap.
I feel like it's like but I feel like it's like the same the same.
All right.
TFW. That's an internet one. So, do you know TFW? Do you know TFW,
no.
Bob?
Is it like FML?
No. So TFW is that feeling when?
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice, bro.
And so, how would you use that? Or
So
you
it'd
would
be like
type it
it'd be
into a-
just like it's normally used for captions for like GIFs.
Yeah.
So like you got a GIF of some guy like dancing and it's like TFW, you
I
get
see.
your paycheck.
I
you
see.
know what
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
Fair enough. Okay.
The
yeah.
feeling when Matt asked you to be on his show again. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
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 TFW.
Good.
Finna.
No idea.
Like I'm finna go to the store. Like I'm like fitting to, it's like a Southern, like they say, like I'm fitting to make me some chicken, like finna
Like
is just,
fixin'?
Yeah.
Fixin' to, yeah.
Yeah.
Fixin' to.
And now it's finna?
It's Finna. F-I.
I'm so impressed that you know all these. Is it because of your kids or because
I
the
think
work
just
you have with college
we're in the
kids?
college and the teens, like the vagabond teens.
I'm excited for you to say one that Bob doesn't know.
Why is my dad calling me?
I don't know what that
He
could
probably has
possibly
a
mean.
good one, dude.
Should I pick up?
Josiah, what about what up?
What up, dog?
Hey, Dad.
The best is to say it with an Australian accent. It always sounds cooler.
What up, dude?
What is up, dog?
Simp.
Hey.
You want to take a shot at simp? I explained simp to Matt yesterday.
I don't know what simp means. Is it when you're showing like unreciprocated affection to a woman?
yeah.
Yeah, but it's like a real like I want to like get my son Jacob like a shirt that says like like official simp, like like it's like your girlfriend, like it's just like you drop everything, like
Oh, I see.
for your girl, like
Like
you got to run over there to like take a picture of her brownies because she want or like you're just
Is that what we
constantly-
used to say when we'd say like you're whipped?
Yes,
Yeah.
simp. That's exactly.
Yeah, but
it.
it's taken on a new meaning with the internet because there are guys who just orbit these women online. Is that what you were gonna say, Neil?
No, I was gonna throw in also down bad is more when it's unreciprocated.
Okay.
It's like really like that or like our
Like who's a simp? Matt Bruninger, dude.
Okay.
That's like classic simp.
Is that
It's
right?
not always
Simp City right there, dude.
It's more just like
You
this guy's
capping.
like 100%.
For Matt Bruninger. This is going to go live while my wife and I are down south. I'm going to have very restricted access to my internet. It's just going to be...
That's all right, bro. I'll take over.
He's gonna come find Bob and I while you're out of town.
Yeah.
I think there's one more on here. Stan.
Stan? Like
Stan.
a man's name?
Like the name
It's like
Stan.
it's a stalker fan. It's like a fan who's like a stalker also.
Okay.
Like a super fan.
Yeah.
Like I
Cool.
I don't think
I think it's like
This has been great.
putting together stalker and fan as a stan.
Like
You
that
probably have
bad
lots of
friend.
stans.
high key and low key.
Like if something's high, does that mean well, if something's
Yeah,
high
do-
key, it's like...
Be like I'm low-key a Matt Fradd fan. You're like, like on the down low, like
I'm low-key a
I'm
Matt
low-key a Matt
Fradd
Fradd stan.
My
That's most of your people,
My
bro.
favorite stands are those, and this has happened once to me. My friend John Henry and I were walking out of a restaurant, and this couple, two fellas who go to Franciscan, like ran out to meet me. And the first thing they'd say was, "Hey man, oh my god, I don't really listen to Pints with Aquinas." But I'm like, why would you? And my friend's like, why would you run out to say?
They just
you
don't want to
listen?
sound dumb, dude. They don't want to sound like simps, bro. But they
Simps.
they were no cap.
All right, good. It's cool. It's interesting.
I think you did pretty good, man.
Oh, I got none of them right.
Well, no, there were a couple you got right. I mean,
What are some that he?
Something he forgot? Oh, geez. I don't know, man. I definitely don't feel like I'm like, I feel like I'm late to the game sometimes.
Are many sayings like fashions where if something's seen and becomes normalized, it drops off and stops
Definitely,
being
dude. It's
cool?
not cool, man.
But the word cool has been around forever. So that one's stuck.
Yeah. I mean, at least, but that's me and you saying that, you know? Because, like, you know what I say
kids
all
say
the time
cool?
that my kids get made
Do
fun
you
of?
say cool Thursday? Gee, that's cool. For example, what that means is I like that. It's a
you guys say
slang
cool?
term.
People say cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
People say cool.
So how come that one is stuck around? Because I cannot see cringe staying around.
Cringe has been around since for like 5 or 6 years now. So
Maybe it will.
It's got a longer life cycle.
I mean, it
than
is
most
actually,
of
I
them.
like the saying because when you make that face,
Yeah, when I read the title
Yeah.
of the book,
It's like an
Getting
unlock,
Ahead in the Coming Rapture, like,
it's when you feel embarrassment for somebody else. Is that partly what it is?
No, you just
you feel
disagree.
you're
Be like,
embarrassed on
"That's
their
cringe."
behalf.
Yeah, it was so cringe. Yeah.
But don't you think like they're not embarrassed, but they should be, and I feel embarrassed for them.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's putting some more thought into it than probably the people that use it.
Was that a bit cringe that I thought
Yeah,
too much?
that was cringe, bro.
Yeah, it was cringe.
Yeah, I always accidentally say cringy. I mean,
Cringy.
but
Yeah,
it's
you
You
weird.
don't-
don't. You should not use proper grammar.
Yeah, no,
Ever.
ever.
Rule number one.
Look, the thing about grammar is, if you understood my grammar well enough to correct me, that means I was communicating effectively enough that you knew what I meant, and you correcting it is just you being a butt.
I see. Well, there have been times where someone has said something that I thought was like really nasty, and I showed Thursday. He's like, "Dude, they are totally trolling." I'm like, oh, trolling is another one. People didn't say troll before the internet, did they?
Well, those little pencils. I mean,
That's true. With the hair,
And the
too?
hair, bro. Yeah. I mean, I have a harder time keeping up with like the abbreviations in texting. I have a way harder time with that. But
Well,
then once
yeah,
I
that's
get
a
one,
good-
bro, I lock in like AF or TF or FML. I mean, those are.
I don't know how I
standards.
feel about these vulgar slang terms being incorporated to everyday house products. So we have
House products?
Yeah, we have we had
Such
sunscreen, and it said like protected AF or something. And I said, "Do you know what this means?" to my wife. And she's like, "So we just threw it out
Yeah, I get
because
that.
we are super on fleek."
No, I get that, but like, you know what it is, dude? Like, you know how like certain things just become part of like normal. You don't really even think about like, you know, I don't know. Did you get in trouble? Like for me as a kid, if I said that sucks, like I would get in a lot of trouble for that, you know? But everyone says it now, dude. I mean, you know, I've heard it in a homily, dude. Be like, it really sucks when
That's
you know,
interesting.
It's not like, you don't really think it's just like the meaning is like it's bad.
All right, let's
Yeah.
let's try to find out. I want to find more of these. What are they called when you use letters like that feeling when? What is that
Acronyms?
called? Like an acronym?
What about
Internet.
IYKYK?
What?
Why?
IYKYK?
No idea. Okay, so here's what is
If
that?
you know, you know.
LOL. What does that mean?
Come on, bro.
I'm a loser and needed to tell you without telling you. Wow. ASAP. Well, that's been around forever. FYI. Yes. G to G. G to
Gotta
G.
go.
Gotta go. FB. Facebook. TTYL.
Talk to you later.
Nobody uses
If
that
I
one.
if I was our Lord, I would just smite the earth again with a flood. IMO.
In my opinion.
Okay, this is called 2022's most used internet abbreviations. There's 100 here.
Wow.
Nobody in 2022 has
Yeah.
texted
PAW.
TTYL.
PAW? Parents are watching? PITR? Parents in the room?
Wow.
PBB? Parents behind back?
Why would we use any of these, bro?
Nobody has used
No one has
those.
said that?
Those seem made up to scare parents.
Yeah, bro. That's a good point.
Is SPF on there?
MRW, my reaction when? CSL, can't stop laughing.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
People don't use MRW. People use MFW to mean the same thing as like.
Well, look at this one. This
PFW.
cannot be a thing. IMOIMHO. In my honest opinion, in my honest opinion, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, IMHO.
No, but it's IMOIMHO. They're saying
It's using the same one
Oh,
twice.
he
to give
can't
you
even
two
tell the difference
definitions.
between two.
you know, this is probably put together by someone from my generation.
Is there SPF on there, Matt? I had a
Oh.
sunscreen bottle that said that. I didn't know.
I actually looked
Nice,
that up.
bro. It's like, what does that mean?
WTF.
LMK,
For the loss?
Let me know.
FTL?
OMW.
On my way.
On my way.
Okay.
NBD.
You got that.
No big deal, dude. That's one of my favorites, bro.
What is
NBD. NBD. No big deal. Like when you say, I like to say that one out loud. You know, like when I come in the room, I'm like, I was just on Pints with Quine as NBD. You know?
If I play...
IRL?
I really know.
In IRL. In real life.
In real life.
All right, how about this? If I play a rap hip hop drum track, would you rap for us? Or would that be
SMH.
Sure, bro.
Or would that soups be
SMFH.
cringy, whingy?
It'd definitely be cringe, but I'll do it, dude.
All right, let's see if I can find a good one though, because they might be bad. Could you do some of that? Could you? Really?
Yeah, sure, bro. Keep it going. Yo, I work the pen, make the ink transform, predict every surface the pen lands on. I'm hands-on, what's the beef? The coolie high chief keys, high techniques, dude, I drape off poetic landscapes and shapes, straight to pad and paper with the pen that paints, then create with half a National Geographic magic, a tailor-made status and the flavor automatic, you got to do it. Remember we said we were going to do a freestyle?
I'm not doing it.
I promised he would do a freestyle.
No, I never promised
not
that.
true.
That wasn't
That's not
freestyle.
true. He didn't promise it,
No,
but I want him to do it anyway.
No, I'm not going to do it. Screw all of you. Thursday, you can do it if you want. Keep going.
That wasn't freestyle. I'll try to do a freestyle, okay?
Oh, don't try.
Come on, I got this. Yo. My name is Bob, rapping's the game. I'm on the Matt Fradd show, it's all the same. When they call me B,
Yeah.
bring it back, hold on. My name is B and I don't... They call me B, and I ain't trying to be punny. Remember when Matt said women aren't funny? Oh,
I do.
I do.
what? Oh, you gotta do it, Matt. No, come on, man. We could do it. But
No.
my name is
Screw
Matt
all of
Fradd.
you.
I'm here to say
No,
I love Thomas Aquinas in a major way.
I remember when you were speaking at a conference and you asked, and I'm not going to say his name, and I don't want you to say his name
Okay.
either.
I'm gonna say it, but go ahead. I won't say it. I won't say it. All right.
It was really good.
All right.
You asked somebody who was the music minister that day to do a freestyle rap,
Okay.
and it was the most cringe thing. I was
It had
so
to be Bob Rice, but I'm
I'm not going to say who, but I was embarrassed for that person, and I just thought better just to say I'm not going to do it because I'm not good
Matt
at it.
Maher. Was it Matt Maher?
I'm not going to say.
Oh, I wish you would say. I don't remember.
Has Matt
I
Maher
would
ever
say
done that?
I've done a rap song with Matt Maher, but he didn't rap. He just sang.
What is the state of Christian music right now? Or have you been out of it for so long it's hard to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm washed up, bro. Remember, we talked about right beforehand. And Matt didn't want to do this bit, but I said, like, what if we put together a washed up Catholic or washed up Christian music world tour? You know, I'd be the headliner. Okay, Righteous B be the headliner. Who else would be on it?
Washed up music?
Washed up
Christian or Catholic?
Christian Catholic. I mean,
Gonna
John
make a
Michael
lot of-
Talbot.
There's no way to
he'll
do this without.
Sandy
I'm gonna
Patty,
make some
Twyla
people
Perry.
really
Unnecessarily
upset. Toby Mac is washed up.
Yeah, he's washed up, dude, but he still looks so cool.
He
man.
looks so cool and he's honest. He seems like he's still processing real things. That's the difference, I think. Like if you've stopped, if you're just singing songs from years ago, like I don't think Metallica are washed up, but they're almost 60 or they are 60.
Thursday, can you zoom in on this?
I can't zoom in, but I can. I got you saying.
Who do you remember Carmen? There's a Christian guy. He did like it was this song's called The Champion. It was like a Christian rap.
No, but
No,
I
it
remember
was-
something called something 52 or
KJ52.
KJ52.
Yeah.
I want to see what he looks like today.
He probably looks cool, man. All these people were like legit music. He was like everyone's like he sounds like Eminem.
Yeah, he did have he had the entire Slim Shady, Dear Slim Shady thing.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I thought that was really
significant, dude. It was significant.
Yeah, he also had some really funny comedy songs. On all of his albums, had at least one comedy song, and they were almost always hilarious.
Let's see, how old is he? KJ52. If you can find, he's only 47.
47.
You know you're old when you're like, he's only
That's old,
47.
bro. That's old.
What's that?
I said we should have these people on the show.
So, dude, we should have a little rap battle. Have them on, and then I'll rap against them, bro. If you can't handle it.
In the debate format, so it's like your 5 minutes starts now.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you think, are you glad that you kind of got out when you did? And do you sometimes see people who this is their thing and they're going to go down with it, and it just, at some point you're like, you need to stop because it looks painful.
Totally. It's easy to be like, well, I got out of the game because I was on top or whatever, but it's like, the truth is I probably just never hit it big, it'd be like, I just kind of stopped. But I mean, it's also like, no one wants to hear a bald, bow-legged, old white guy rapping, but like, I think like for me, the biggest thing, and I mean, this was the case back then too, but it wasn't like you had to be in that back then. Like when I was like, I feel like more like in the game, it was easy to make a living because there wasn't a lot of like cool, like Catholic music, a lot of cool Christian music. Like there's so much cool music, not just Catholic and Christian music, but like just music, dude. I mean, you talk to people, I'm talking to college students, like, have you ever heard of this guy? Have you ever heard of this guy? Have you ever heard of this? I mean, and it's just so, because anyone could just make music on their laptop, dude, and I feel like when I would go to a conference or something, whether it was like a diocesan youth conference, a student conference, something, it was just so easy to make money because like nothing else was cool there. You just had a shirt that says Jesus loves rap, like just something stupid, dude. I mean, I had so many stupid shirts. I would just make so much money because people would be like, well, look, the kids will be, that's way cooler than buying like, the picture with like Moses, bench pressing or something. I don't know. Like it just wasn't a lot of cool stuff. Like, and so it was a lot easier, but also it was just on the cusp of like, like social media. So I never had, so I mean, like you have to be so entrenched in social media today. Like I even, friends of ours that I think are great people that are doing it, like walking that line pretty well, but I still am with them. Like they're always having to do like a little, hey, here, I'm here with so-and-so, or I'm at this thing, or what, like I'm in the airport, like look how funny this is. It's like, you're just so constantly having to promote, to book, to sell, and so I think like on some levels, like the game like is a lot better, like in the sense of like quality of music. I mean, I feel like Christian music in general has probably never been like cooler sounding, but
what do you have in mind? Because I'm just out of curiosity for my own.
Well, I'm thinking like when I think of like, like hip hop, like I really don't like turn on Christian radio. I think a lot of like, when I think of like, like worship, semi-worship song, I just think they're all kind of like cringe, like just in the sense of like the phrasing, the content, like it's like always recycled. But as far as the sound, dude, it sounds awesome. Like the production, it's so cool. I mean, as far as like hip hop stuff, like I love Andy Mineo. That's like, like one of my favorite, but there's just so many like good, like I feel like if any genre, there's so many good stuff. But like just yesterday, I watched this documentary on Rich Mullins, like, and it was like,
what was his classic song?
Like he had a lot, like he wrote like, oh God, you are my God. That's sometimes my step. I mean, he wrote some cheesy ones too, Awesome God and stuff like that. But like the bulk of his work and the like kind of the tension of his work was like not wanting to be in like the Christian music scene, like to the extent that, so like there's this awesome, remember Tom Booth?
Yeah.
Okay, so like Tom Booth told me once, like, so Rich Mullins died in 97 in a car crash, but like was just such a disruptor. You know, like when I watch Shark Tank and they're always like, this is a disruptor. Like he was definitely a disruptor of Christian music.
How so?
He would still be a disruptor today. Like, well, he always would just record demos on a cassette. You know, they hated that. Like he would just be like, I don't care about how many records a set. Like I want it to just be pure. You know, he had an accountant that all his money went to the accountant. He told them to never let him know how much money he made and only to pay him whatever that year's median salary was for a man. Like, so in the 90s, you know, $28,000, it just all went to charities, Indian reservation, just wherever he lived on Indian reservation, you know? And so everything else would just, you know, so he was like pure of heart in the sense of like, you know, but this one time Tom Booth told me that, so Tom Booth was nominated for like the Dove Awards. Like he was nominated for Male Vocalist of the Year. And this is Rich Mullins was like, he was doing a lot of stuff at that time with like some of the Catholic artists. And he told Tom Booth that, or Tom Booth told me, he told him this, that if you win Male Artist of the Year, I'll give you $10,000 cash if you say I'd like to thank Satan for this award, because he's the
Rich Mullins told him to say that?
Because he's the only one who would care which Christian music artists are better than the other ones, you know? I thought this was so funny, dude. He's just like saying it's so crazy. Like we have to have our own awards and we have to like mimic everything culture does instead of just being like, we don't need to mimic culture, you know what I mean? But like the Christian music industry is first and foremost, it's an industry, dude. You know what I mean? So like,
what does that mean to say? It's
first and foremost to make money, dude.
Yeah.
You know, every Christian music label is parent label by Sony, or I mean, like they're all, their parent labels are just the only reason they realize. You know, you see like these elections, you know, and you think like, man, like there's a lot of fundamental Christians, there's a lot of right wing, there's a lot of Christians, and we should be making money off of them, dude. You know, and so these labels. The first and foremost thing they care about is making money. You know what I mean? And their business is not making money is not evil, but it's a weird connection. I always thought it would be so cool to write a song like with a word play on prophet with an F and prophet with a PH. You know, it's like literally like there's these people that are like paid to be prophets, you know, like a prophet for hire. Yeah. And there's just something about it that's like, it's, I don't know. There's a tension there that I think a lot of, you know, Christian Catholic music artists don't have. And I understand I don't think it's pure evil or anything like that, but it's like, you got to remember, it's like first and foremost, it's not trying to think of like what can impact these people's spiritual life. You know, it's like first and foremost, it's like, who's going to buy this album? Who's going to buy this song?
I remember that shocking me when I came to America. I didn't know how to take it because on one hand, I thought it was really cool that you could go to Walmart and there were these Christian t-shirts and then you'd be at like a restaurant and on the TV there'd be an advertisement for some Christian CD. And so I think originally I thought this is really great. Like look at Americans wearing their faith on their sleeve. And I think there is probably something to be praised there. But I didn't, and then maybe the more I stuck around, the more I thought, yeah, this does feel like just an industry to make money.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, because you just start feeling like anyone.
You don't have that in Australia, you know?
Oh, no?
No way. I mean, I know Hillsong is a big deal in Australia. I don't know what that's like in Australian media. I presume that they probably make most of their money in America. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's just it's a weird. I mean, even Hillsong is a perfect example. I like Hillsong's music, but this like trend now to record worship songs on YouTube, and like there's this like vibe where they're just people that happen to be in a room, they're all praising, and there's like a sweeping camera, and then you realize, man, everyone looks hot, dude. Like everyone looks so cool. I mean, that was the first thing I noticed about Hillsong. I'm like, man, I love some of these Hillsong. I still love some the Hillsong worship, like a ton. But then I realized, man, I love watching the video because everyone looks hot.
Or you realize that, and then you get into the era of body positivity, and you're like, oh, wow, there's a big fat person for some reason.
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, well, that's part of the industry too.
Yeah.
Like that didn't necessarily happen organically.
Yeah, to just, I mean, even just like all of a sudden, all these like worship groups like have a black guy rapping over like the bridge or something. I mean, like I remember just feeling like, man, that's like kind of forced. You know what I mean? Like it just felt like, and I'm not saying like it's bad.
There's a person in a wheelchair. I'm going to look up, I bet you right now. Let's have a look. Let's see, just look up Hillsong pictures. I want to see if there's someone in a wheelchair on stage
An
who
alien.
is racially ambiguous. Keep talking.
Do you guys? Sorry, you guys were talking about Christian music.
Yeah,
And
who
so
do you
I
like
Googled,
Thursday?
So I Googled top Christian artists, and then I just clicked the Billboard website's top 10 Christian artists. Do you guys want to guess who Billboard has as number one? It's hilarious.
Top Christian artists?
Is it a washed up person?
No, it's not. They are. That depends on your definition of the word washed up.
I take it back. There's no one in wheelchairs.
Is it Michael W. Smith?
I was going to say that too.
No.
I was going to say the exact thing.
As soon as I say it, you guys are going to roll your eyes all the way into the back of your heads.
Okay, so there's a Christian artist, music artist, who's number one. And we have to guess who that is. Are you looking it up right now? Are you texting somebody?
No, I'm not, dude. I was getting a text. I thought someone wanted me to say something funny. I was going to try and do it, but sorry. I'm ready to guess who it is, though.
Okay, take a guess.
I say Michael W. Smith. Bro.
Okay. It's
Wait, if it's not Michael W. Smith, let me guess then.
it's not.
Freaking like Casting Crowns or something.
They are, I think, number 4. No, yeah, they're number 5.
Ugh.
It's Mr. Ye.
Kanye?
Yes.
It is. It's
Wow.
Ye.
Like from his like that last Jesus is King album?
Jesus King and Donda.
Such a
Donda was
great album.
Donda
And it's
also had
excellent.
some really good Christian songs. God
Okay.
Breathe,
That's funny. No, I'm not rolling my eyes. I mean, other
Hurricane.
than what the poor fella seems to be going through right now. But I mean, that's cool. Okay, so who are the top 5? Go. Yay.
For King and Country.
Okay.
I haven't heard of the next 2. Elevation Worship.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, they write like everything.
Oh, okay, cool. Maverick City Music.
Yeah, dude. They're like, yeah.
And
Those-
then Casting
they've
Crowns
also
is
written
number
everything.
5.
yeah, I know.
Casting
Okay.
Crowns is number 5.
Okay.
So.
I mean,
Okay.
Elevation, Maverick City, kind of cool.
You know what I did recently? I downloaded the first Hillsong album.
Like United or something. Hillsong United.
No, I think there was
Oh,
a
like
distinction between Hillsong and Hillsong United. Hillsong United was more the youthy branch. But I'm noticing this trend in music where, like, if you go back and listen to music in the early 90s and 80s, it was very kind of like gushy and optimistic, you know? Mm-hmm. And the praise and worship was like that too. Whereas
Totally.
now it's more like introspective
Yeah.
and like angsty.
Yeah.
So I actually kind of miss the old praise and worship that people would perhaps
like kind of
think is
fun
cringy, but
and-
like
yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
Eagle's Wings and all those things. It was nice to kind of go back.
Was Eagles Wings ever praise and worship?
No, I'm thinking of what song am I thinking of?
And he will raise
Oh, that's not what I'm thinking.
you.
Yeah. No, what am I? I'm thinking "Shout to the Lord."
Yeah,
like that kind of stuff, right?
I thought you were thinking of on Eagles Wings, like that funeral
I know
song.
what you
dude,
mean.
know?
So I downloaded the song and I was listening to it the other day. Just listened to the whole album and just being like, okay, this is about God, so I'm going to praise God with this music, and it was actually a beautiful experience.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I had a friar recently tell me, he's like, we're talking about praise and worship in this age group and stuff, and he's like, I miss the songs that were just like kind of fun and even like almost silly. Like
Yes,
there was something
Lord,
about
yes,
it that
Lord,
was,
yes,
yeah, like
yes,
I mean,
Lord.
like stuff like that. Like I remember, what's that? Oh, the joys when they said, "Do me, let us
right.
go." I mean, it was all like but there was something about it that was like it really was uplifting.
like
And he was like, now he said the same thing. Like, he didn't use the word angsty, but it was like that. Yeah, it is a very introspective kind of like right off. Like you cut to this deep, you cut to the chase with like some kind of cut you to the core song, which I don't know. I'm a big fan of like maybe the Lord's doing something different. Maybe this group's just they're what they need is something different than what we needed and all that kind of stuff. And I'm okay with that, you know. But I totally know what you're saying, dude. I mean, you remember that song "Shine Jesus Shine"?
Yes,
I
that's
mean, as a
beautiful.
high school kid, dude, I
is
have
lovely.
great memories of
Yeah.
like of singing that song and like
It's clearly
feeling
had its day. It
Yeah.
clearly wouldn't appeal to our children. It doesn't need to. We don't need to revive it. But I do have nice memories of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should start it. Do you guys know,
Shine,
dude? I don't know.
Jesus, shine.
I don't want to get them to all watch the video you singing at your sister's wedding, but Matt has an amazing voice and stage presence, dude. I had no idea, dude. We were watching this video, and my wife was like, "Dude, he should have been like a lead singer of like
That's
a
so
group."
funny.
I mean, it sounded so cool, man.
I was a lead singer in my band in high school. Had a couple of bands in high
What
school.
was the names?
Buckle up. Here they go. The Stitchwork Ninjas.
Ooh,
That's pretty good, isn't it?
that's really good, dude.
And the other one was Little Choppy.
A little choppy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I like that one better. That one's awesome.
Little Choppy.
Was it spelled like Lil?
No.
Little
just
Choppy.
Little Choppy. Stitchwork Ninjas, yeah.
Oh, Little Choppy's so funny, dude. I like that one.
My
dude.
sister's doing good stuff. She's a very good guitarist. Let me see if I can find this one thing she did on Instagram.
Dude, is that video of you singing? Is that like public or is that
It's
private?
public. Emma published it. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good,
so
dude.
Emma got married in Australia and then came to America. What are you looking up? Why are you smiling?
It's like him
that?
singing a Super Freak song, dude.
All right, so let me just like play this song from my sister and see if we can see what it sounds like. See what you think. You can't fast forward on Instagram.
It's crazy that's her playing that, dude.
Wish I could fast forward. She's so gifted.
She's got 2 capos on the guitar right now. It's wild.
It sounds like the Tea Party, which was a Canadian band back in the day who were very good. But this is her. She wrote this.
Dude, it sounds so cool.
Anyway,
it
Emma,
sounds so
it's cool.
cool.
So her and her husband have a record label called Enemy Love Records. Go check them out. Give them a follow wherever you are on social media. I'm sure they greatly appreciate it. I mean, one of the things they talk about is how difficult it is to, proliferate authentic music that you're writing without the help of a big record label. When, and the realization, like, you've got to, how many plays do you have to get on Spotify before you get $100? So, it's insane. So
Yeah, but I mean, if there's ever been a time that it's like easier for someone to access any Joe Schmo to access.
But do people do that? Or do they end up listening to the exact same thing?
Oh, no, I think they do.
Okay.
In fact, I think people's appetite for new music is so strong that it's like, I'll occasionally like have one of my kids or someone in the college like show me a new group. This isn't normally a Christian group per se, but like, some kind of music. I really love like indie singer-songwriter stuff. And by the time it takes me to kind of digest that album, there are 13 groups on, I'm like, oh, I'm still listening to this one, that you showed me, 4 months ago, and they're like, oh yeah, there you go. Check out these ones, and I think there's some esteem to like finding a new group, so they're always, but it's wild that I think the amount, like when I think of high school, I think there were a couple albums I listened to. It was like
Creed.
Creed is hardcore. But then like I feel like the breadth of like music that like young people listen to today, it's way more. It's way more, I think.
What's a good movie you've watched lately? Do you and your wife, is that one thing you do? Do you ever?
Yeah, we love.
I sometimes wish my wife and I think we are quite interesting, but I sometimes wish we were more interesting and I could say something like, we get the kids to bed and we smoke cigarettes and read Chesterton together. And I'm
Blowing
open
in
to
each
that.
other's mouth.
Yeah. Well, no. But
Sounds
I do,
romantic, dude.
No, it doesn't at all. But I do love just. Yeah, I just love hanging out with my wife and like watching a show.
Yeah, dude.
It's
Dude,
so comforting.
I definitely try and not like pretend, that we don't watch TV. Like, well, we don't watch TV. Like, dude, when the kids go to bed, dude, we can't wait to like get in bed and watch a show. Man.
What are you watching right now?
Well,
Isn't it funny that we say so easily a show? I wonder if people were saying that 20 years ago.
A show?
We can't wait to. Well, no one would say that because
they would say
obviously.
a specific show.
Well, not just that, but I think like shows have replaced movies and like. Yeah, like who is it? I don't have time for 2.5 hour thing. Let's watch a show. Doesn't a show mean not a movie?
Well, I'm talking about a show.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about a movie.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think show means a show in a season.
People
I
don't want to
know, I'm
watch a
looking at
2.5-hour movie and then they watch 6 episodes of whatever TV show.
Exactly.
in
Dude,
3
I'll
hours.
tell you
true.
which one we like totally geeked out on. I'm gonna like need you to look up the name of it, but it's like not suppression or something, but it's like about it's about like where their minds are split.
Are you talking about the new one with
the comedy
Chloe
that turns into
Not a
No,
comedy.
you're talking about the new Amazon show with Chloe Grace Moretz, right? Is it Peripheral?
No.
Minds are split.
Their minds are split. There's I mean, dude, it's like mind bending. I
Moon
love.
Knight?
What is it?
Moon Knight?
No.
Yeah,
Look at this, dude. I'm Google at my fingertips. Let's see. Minds.
Remember when there were other web browsers to Google? I bet Thursday doesn't remember that.
I don't
Dogpile.
use
Remember
Google.
Dogpile?
I don't remember Dogpile.
That was the first one my brother showed me. He's like, there's this thing called like a search engine.
I used to be on Aussie Mail. Speaking of different emails.
Aussie Mail?
Aussie Mail. There was Hotmail, Aussie Mail.
Severance. That's what it's called.
Sev.
Okay, dude. So it's
tell me
wild,
that.
bro. It's these people. They choose. Okay, so I really for some reason like dystopian,
I love dystopian stuff.
like sci-fi.
Yep.
My wife like has come to like it, but this has some great actors in it. And I don't know any of their names, but the whole thing is like they
Severance.
choose willingly to sever their mind, their work life and their home life. So they have no memory of the home when they're at work. They have no memory of work when they're at home.
Interesting.
And
It would help them perform
it goes
better.
awry.
But,
Yeah, right. That's the idea, that both will be better. But
Now, is this an Apple TV thing? It looks like
Probably,
it is.
yeah, probably.
Is it a sex thing?
no,
Every time
there's
I keep this like a recurring theme whenever we talk about TV shows. Like, is there sex in it? I can't do anything with sex.
There's no sex in it. There's probably like a homosexual like
Necessarily.
love
yeah,
story.
not present in family reviews.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
But it's more of like a mind bender.
Nice.
Yeah, the people either love it or hate it. I told someone about it the other day, like, this is so weird, But like, if you like weird, man, it's a good one.
like
And then
weird.
what else we just watched? The Dropout. It was like a mini series.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just one season. It's about Theranos. There's like a company that said it was going to test like blood with just one drop.
Yep.
And it was
Theranos, bro. That's
dude, wild. Dude, that girl from Mean Girls.
Never saw it.
That's like one of the main
She
girls.
lowered her voice and everything.
Yes, dude,
It's
yes.
so creepy.
But like something about like, I think watching like, especially my wife, like she likes watching like these like I survived or some crazy thing.
Bunch of sex in it though.
No, is there?
That's what it says.
No, there was no nudity in it. That's for sure. Maybe there's some. I don't know. We definitely are not into that, Matt.
All right, sweet.
But there really is no nudity in it, and but I don't know. I don't want to give like I don't want to promote.
It's
anything.
cool. It's illustrative that one of the recommendations, having looked at Severance, is The Matrix. So that does
is
seem
that
to,
right?
It does seem to fit in with
it's
that.
definitely like a dystopian
Nice.
sci-fi.
Nice.
Like,
My son and I are watching Chernobyl right now. Do you ever watch Chernobyl?
Oh yes, dude.
Wasn't that incredible?
Dude, it's so good, man. In fact, we got on like a rabbit hole after that. We watched every YouTube we could, like documentary on like Chernobyl now.
Really?
And the wolves of Chernobyl.
Oh, okay.
And like, freak animals they found in Chernobyl. I mean, I couldn't stop watching it, dude. I couldn't stop. That was really well done.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That we definitely like to watch something, but I don't know. I feel like good shows are few and far between, but especially like you can only stomach a certain amount of like stuff. That's the first thing I ask too, and people are like, "Oh, this is And I'm like, "Is there nudity? Is it?"
What's interesting is that we seem as a culture to in one sense be cracking down on pornography. Right? Here's a few examples: McDonald's and Starbucks filter their Wi-Fi. Hotel chains, by and large, do not allow and don't show pornographic shows. YouTube just banned Pornhub's account. Instagram also banned Pornhub. Right. So there seems to be like we're poo-pooing pornography, but then it comes up like weeds in all of the shows that are being produced on Hulu and Apple and HBO.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it has always been that way to a certain degree, man. I remember, like,
I remember I watched Ghostbusters recently because I had this nostalgic memory of watching Ghostbusters as a kid. And I was shocked that within the first 10 minutes, who's the very funny Ghostbuster? Is it Dan Aykroyd?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that was who it was.
Yeah, Dan Aykroyd was in it. Yeah,
no, but that's not who I mean. Who's the kind of recluse? He's become a bit of a legend.
Oh,
Bill Murray. So Bill Murray's character, I'd say within the first 10 minutes, he's a university professor. You remember? They were university, and he's talking a university student girl to give him oral sex. He's like lying to her to get her to do this. And then someone walks in and interrupts it. That was the joke. That was supposed to be funny. Can you imagine? Like, no one would do that today because we would recognize, like, having someone in a powerful position, sexually manipulating someone is a scumbag thing to do. But that was the setup.
Yeah, dude. The 80s, 90s, that stuff, like, it really, there's been a few times, where, like, we went back and watched something, or, like, after the very first time we did this, we're like, we got to, I mean, you forget some of that stuff, like, you know, and then you're like, man, there was bad stuff in that. You know, I forgot about it.
There was less family movies.
What do you mean back then?
Yeah, like when we were growing up, family movies were things like E.T. and Ghostbusters and things that had a lot of sexual stuff in it.
Totally, dude. Even like Goonies, that was like one of my favorites.
Yeah, there's masturbation jokes.
Always all these.
Whereas today, I felt like we went through a bit of a golden age with like family movies that you could trust your kids to. Now it doesn't.
Yeah, now
it's
even
like,
all those cartoons, every time like there's some weird like agenda driven character.
Can't do it. Won't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is tough, man. It's tough to find. And then you think like, well, what else are we gonna do? Because there's been times like where I take my kids, like they're using Kate's phone to watch something, and then I'm like, give me the phone. No more phones. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, and then like let's play a game. Let's play war or something. You know, I don't know. I just want to play something, and it is hard. Like, you do have to be more creative. You know, you realize like if you're going to put your money where your mouth is, like it means being more creative. You know?
Yeah. Final question: why should people consider sending their kids to Steubenville since you work there, Franciscan? I mean, it's funny.
Dude, everyone our age, man, like old people say Steubenville.
Yeah,
dude. Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know.
It's in part because of
what they used to say.
It's in part because of the conferences. These conferences all around the country are referred to as Steubenville conferences.
Yeah, you're right.
So people think, there's the Steubenville school, so we go to Steubenville.
Yeah. I just think now the students would say more like, I go to Franciscan. Yes. But when I was there, I go to Steubenville.
I think it's because more recently there's now Franciscan and there's Steubenville, and they're no longer the same thing.
Yeah. Maybe that's true.
I wish Thursday would shut up.
Cool.
I'm just kidding. Why should people send their kids to Steubenville? Well, I'll tell you why. Like for me, like this was a, this was the whole reason. Like I left Vagabond and kind of made this decision was like for my family, I wanted it to be very accessible, and I wanted my kids to be able to go there. You've probably heard the statistic before, but like there's this statistic that says like most formative years of your life, there's two times, and they're like almost identical in the formation is like the 0 to 4 and like 18 to 22, and I know there's something really scary about that statistic that just says like, dude, you could have, like everything we're saying, done your homework, really really put in a lot of good work as a parent, and everything can be undone. And I know that's free will, dude. I mean, I know that's God gave us free will, but like everything can be undone, like going to a place that is, heathenistic and, has like the formation you receive is much more than like what classes are you going to take, So I think like with that in mind, like there's something to be said about like, I'm going to send my kids to a school that is, forming the whole person. I've been to a lot of other schools. I give talks at other colleges. I love college age ministry. And I could say good things about just about all Newman Guide Catholic schools, but the thing about Franciscan that I just think is like the culture there is established, So for instance, like by and large, the student culture is, And when I was going there, I didn't know anyone, and I was like saying, "Oh, I'm so worried" to my friend that like it's going to be a bunch of dorks. There's a curfew and all this kind of stuff. And what I realized, even back then, and the students are way cooler now, like as far as just terms of just being genuinely like cool kids. But like they're normal people who want to be holy. So yes, there's different types. There's that we have NCAA sports now, and there's some different things. There's really smart kids and just a lot of hipster kids, But like the common denominator is almost all of them like really want to be holy. So even the ones that aren't getting it totally right, like their deepest desire is like, I want to be holy. And so like there's these, like we got these 53 households on campus that are like these.
Holy mackerel. I didn't realize there was that many.
Yeah. I mean, so it's like, 70% of our student population are in these community groups, these prayer groups that like they're self-initiated, self-run, self-governed, but like we do things that like help the leadership and help the groups, but they're different flavors. There's some are more sporty, some more, like musical. They all have different saints they take on and stuff like this. But like, and some will like Friday night they have wings and Wednesday night they have rosary. Some have like, things that you could be a part of almost every night of the week. But like the general idea is like, I want to find some people that I'm going to run into battle with and I could do that. And like the guys that I was in my household with, like are guys that are still, godfathers of my kids. Mm-hmm. They're like some of my best friends. They're guys that I would, call if I was in trouble, and so there's something about like committing to this formation that's, ongoing outside of, like you learn to be a man of God outside of just, intellect, which is really good there too. But I feel like culture wise, you step onto the campus, you know right away you're in a kind of a special place.
Yeah, I forget. Is it Tuesdays and Thursdays they have confession from say 7:30 to 8:30? I might be getting those times a bit off.
Yeah, it's something like that. I don't know. So.
But I went the other day with the kids, and I said, "Come on, let's go to confession." And I know you got to get there early so you can get in. There was at least 50 students ahead of me. Like we were all the way wrapped around, and that's all the time.
Yeah, they have 4 masses every day. I mean, there's the sacraments 2-3 times, or the confession 2-3 times a week. I mean, it really is wild how, and it does feel like good to like normalize that. Like back when I was here, my mom would always be like, "There's a positive peer pressure there at Steubenville."
She's right.
And yes, what I mean. But like, there's something good to just normalize the idea of like, I want to be holy. Yeah, I want to have friends that are normal and funny and support me in my life. But like, the main thing I want is to be holy because that makes all the difference. And so yeah, it's inspiring, honestly. Like even just as like an older guy, like working with like these students who have so much passion for their faith and so much hope for the church, and that are giving themselves all kinds of apostolates, and really it's inspiring.
Beautiful. Bob, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Thursday.